Hello, this is Brendan Wilmington from the Left Turn Network, and welcome back to another Lumen Stock Car Invitational Series event. This is not a race, of course. This is the single car qualifying time trials for the Lumen 500, the biggest race of the year, kicking off Daytona Speed Weeks here at the Daytona International Speedway on this Tuesday night to see who will win the poll for the biggest race of the year and maybe get an idea of who to watch out for come the duels and the main event next week. I'm going to be joined by a rotating cast of co-commentators, just like I was last year, and the first of them is Darian Arnsdorf, who will also be joining us for the Lumen 500 as well as the duels. And Darian, I know you're excited about this event. You were also up here for a little bit last year as well. Tell us what you're maybe expecting to see in terms of maybe the speeds tonight.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Brendan. Always love coming to Daytona, one of the best tracks in racing, period, I feel. Last year we were hitting speeds around 200, 201 miles an hour, if I'm not mistaken. This year I don't think it'll be that fast. I think we'll be around the 198, 199 range. I don't think we'll get 200. Maybe if someone has a really good lap, we might see it, but I severely doubt it. But it's going to be really fun. Qualifying is always a fun time because everyone gets the spotlight shown on them at least once in this event. We're going to see every single driver. We're going to get to talk about them at length in some way, shape, or form, and it's going to be really fun to talk about just all night long.
Yeah, that is my favorite part about this event is that every single driver gets a spotlight. And in terms of the speeds, of course, last year we had 9 drivers join the 200 club, the first 9 drivers to hit 200 miles per hour in a qualifying lap in a restricted engine car. We took out a lot of drag in that package. This year's package has more drag on it, but we took some out to kind of match where it was last year for qualifying specifically. But I don't think the weather is quite as friendly to the 200 mile per hour braking barriers that we had last year. But still, they're going to be ripping it around this racetrack. It's going to be fun to watch. And in terms of drivers in the spotlight, Darian, there's probably a few drivers that you got in mind that have a real shot at the pole here. Could you list off a few of the ones that you have your eye on?
I'm going to look over the drivers I have in my group, mainly here because that's who I'm going to be seeing, or I'm going to be paying attention to the most. I'm looking at the 14, Latanya Gray, second in points in the amateur series. She's been doing a fantastic job this season so far, and she made this race last year, finishing, I believe, in the top 10 for last year's Lumen 500. So very good stuff from her. I'm also looking at the 3, George Bryan, who's been really strong as of late, especially third in the points right now coming into this. Paula Sequa, another driver that you definitely have to look out for. We saw last week at Iowa with the fourth place finish. Sequa has been so strong this season in that 92 car. She's in the 12 this week, but I don't think that's going to stop her. I think Sequa is going to be one of the biggest names to look out for this week.
Yeah, a couple other drivers in that group. Alnita Kim, the current points leader. Corbin Taps, always a threat at the super speedways. Michael Harvin, last year's pole sitter. There's a lot of heavy hitters in this group, and all throughout the night, we're going to see a lot of drivers trying to kind of challenge for that pole. Of course, we're going to go over the qualifying, I guess, format that we have this year, and it's unchanged from last year, other than the fact that we have one extra spot in the field this year, a 39 car field, which will be taken as a 6th owner point spot. So, how it will work is the top 2 from this single car qualifying session will be locked into the race. They'll be locked into the front row. The rest of the qualifying will determine the order that they will start in the 2 qualifying races, the duels, which will be next week. If you finish top 15 in your duel, then you will be guaranteed a spot in the race. So that will lock in, I believe, 32 cars from there. That would be 30 from the duels and 2 from there. Then you'll have 6 owner point spots. And then the last 3 spots will be also based on this qualifying session. So the highest up 3 cars that did not get in through any other means in this qualifying session will get spots in the race based on that. And that's why this is important for even some of the smaller teams that don't have a shot at the pole. They still want to put together a pretty good lap because it might end up saving them in the end. Now, that last spot could go to a champion's provisional, if one of our past champions failed to make it through any other means, but last year that did not end up coming into play. I wouldn't expect that to come into play again. I think all of our past champions, even the ones that have been struggling this year, like Kevin DuPont and Tim Berry, will find a way to make the race, but there is a fallback for them if that does end up happening. And as a result, we do have 7 cars that are entering this race that are locked into the race, but everybody else is going to have to they're going to have to put together a good qualifying time to help them in the duels. Again, especially if they're a smaller team, that qualifying time could end up saving them. First car to qualify is the Patriot Racing Inc. number 3 car of George Bryan. 3rd place in points, one of the fan favorites. And I mean, he's going to be your first one to go. And there's some certain struggles that the first car that goes out has. So, Darian, what are those exactly? What are the benefits or drawbacks to going out first?
The benefit is you're setting the bar for everyone else for the rest of the day, but that's also a big detriment is that now everyone else knows what the pace is going to be for the rest of the day, more or less. And you also don't have an opportunity to adjust as to what the weather might be. Like, is it severely windy? Is it a bit cooler than you might have thought it would be? Because these are adjustments that people can make depending on how these cars go throughout the event, throughout the night.
And we do have a wind going to the west, so that will be basically a headwind as they go down the back straightaway. But you're going to catch a nice tailwind off of turn 4, and then maybe that's not necessarily a thing that you want, because turn 4 is known as a very troublesome corner. You definitely fishtail off that corner if you're not careful, but I don't know. We'll see. We haven't really seen a whole lot of that here at this track in the past, so I don't know. We'll see what this 3 car has in it. As he has already taken the green flag, now he will start his warm-up lap, and he will only get 1 flying lap, so he'll only get 1 chance to get that thing as good as he can get it. So George Bryan will be the first one, already at 191, exiting turn 4 on his warm-up lap. He will take the green for his flying lap, and we'll see what he's got in that 3 car.
Yeah, he went down to 190 coming out of turn number 4. It's a 173.8 on the warm-up lap, 51.78 on the clock. 195 as he heads through 1 and 2. Goes down to 194. Is he going to drop to 193? Doesn't seem like it. Back up to 195. This could actually be a really fast lap here for George Bryan. He is flying down the back straightaway here, up to 198, maybe 199. Can he hit 200? No, he can't, but they're in the 3 and 4 for the first time.
Yeah, and the Chevrolets were very fast here last year, especially those Patriot Racing cars. Those cars are very good on the super speedways, so you know that they've got a good setup on that car. Let's see what the time is as he crosses the line. 45 seconds is 200, and it's a 45.493. I should say 44 seconds is 200. But that is your first time right there. Again, not spectacular like the times that we saw last year, but I think the speed's a little bit off of where it was last year, so that could end up being a pretty good lap. We're just going to have to find out as more cars come out. That is an average speed, by the way, of 197.833 miles per hour. Next up is the number 98 Honda for Walker Brothers Racing, driven by Kevin DuPont, your Season 3 champion back in 2024. Although ever since he won that championship, he has yet to win a race. In fact, this year, he has not even scored a top 10. It has been a big struggle for Kevin DuPont these past couple of seasons. And it's kind of put his championship season as a huge outlier because he wasn't spectacular in his rookie year either, but we'll see what this 98 car has. The Walker Brothers Racing cars had a lot of qualifying pace last year. Of course, they put the 85 of Charlie McCarron on the front row last year, so see, this could be a good chance for DuPont to do something impressive.
Yeah, it definitely could be, especially with how he's been this season. Like you said, no top 10s on the season for Kevin DuPont. His best finish so far is an 11th at Circuit of the Americas, if I read this correctly. Worst finish, a 35th at Rockingham. And a total of 5 top 20s on the season is all to show for DuPont so far this season. Former champion of the series, yet to win since then, as you mentioned. Buffalo Wild Wings on the number 98 Honda for this race. And
these are the colors that won last year with Jake Sidney.
That's true. That's true. It's been strange to see for Kevin DuPont over the last few seasons, but we'll see here as they get to the line for the warm-up lap. 51.921. I believe that's a bit slower than Brian's was by about 2/10, but I could be misremembering already.
Now that warm-up lap isn't always indicative of how the flying lap is going to go. I think really, unless we see a spectacular warm-up lap or a really bad warm-up lap, it won't really tell us much. Going down the backstretch, 198, 199, he does seem to be a little bit off the pace of George Bryan. Doesn't get to 200 in turn 3. And I think this lap will be slower than what the 3 set. Maybe not by a ton, but we'll see as he comes off of turn number 4, 195. Holding 195, gets up to 196 across the line, and it is a 45.529. So yes, it was slower than DuPont, but not by a ton.
Yeah, only by about 3/100ths of a second he was down on the 3 car. Should be around a 197, I believe. Probably 197.6 is my assumption. Yeah, 197.676 miles an hour. So it's a decent pace, but nothing that's earth-shattering. And now we have some drivers that are going to be very interesting to look at for this race.
Next up is the first Toyota to go out and qualify is the number 12 Pacific Racing Toyota of Paula Sasequa. And last time we saw this car out on the racetrack, Paula Sasequa pulled off an incredible upset at the Auto Club Speedway, winning the 100th LSCI race on fuel strategy. And she has proven that was not a fluke, because in her next 2 starts when she was in the 92, she finished 2nd and 4th, almost won both times. So Paula Sasequa, possibly a budding superstar that we weren't quite expecting. It'll be interesting to see the kind of pace in this 12 car. Pacific Racing struggled a lot last year in single car qualifying, but the Toyotas have kind of revitalized their engines this year, and that could really help Pacific Racing as well as the other Toyota teams in this qualifying session.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Sasequa, as you mentioned, is a budding superstar, probably one of the best drivers we have seen in LSCI so far. And I want to mention here, because I find this very interesting, she's only run 3 races so far this season. Her first, second, and fourth at Fontana, Phoenix, and Iowa. And she's ahead of 3 drivers who are full-time in the standings. Those being Karina Willis-Callaway, Lori Jackson, who comes up soon as well, and the reigning champion Tim Berry is behind Sasequa in points, which I think is very surprising to see, not only out of Sasequa being that good in just 3 races, but also just how horrible Tim Berry has been this season. And that is a really good warm-up lap.
Yeah. 174.486 miles per hour on the board there. That's considerably faster than what we saw from the 3 and the 98. So already at 198 down the backstretch. 200 already. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness, wait a minute.
202.
202?
203 entering turn number 3.
What?
Paula Sasequa. Where is she getting all of this pace from?
It's dropping a lot
through 3 and 4, off of turn number 4. What is the time going to be? Now, I still don't think it's going to be 200, but it's going to be really close. Closer than we thought. 45.263. And she is well ahead of both Bryan and DuPont. So once again, Paula Sasequa is proving that she should be in a full-time ride. She did get a couple of races with the 5 car later on in this season, but that is an average. She's a full mile an hour faster than George Bryan.
That is unbelievable. A quarter second faster in 1 lap out of that 12 car is so ridiculous. And you can call this the Pacific Racing being good, or you could call this how I see it. Paula Sasequa is one of the best drivers we have ever seen in LSCI in terms of raw talent.
Next up, the number 14 of Latanya Gray, and this is one that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on, including my co-commentator, because she drives for him in the amateur series. Last year, she was the underdog of the event. She had a pretty good qualifying run, got herself in the race in the duels, and had a shot to win at the end before settling for a seventh place finish. Of course, she basically put this car together by herself. This is the exact same car that she used last year that she got from Cooper Spur, and she worked on it in All Star Speed Team's race shop all throughout that kind of season, getting it ready for Daytona, and it paid off. And we'll see if Latanya can put this 14 in the field again. Of course, she's not going to have any owner points because this is the first race that this 14 has started, so it is key that she puts together a good qualifying run here.
Yeah, this is a do or die lap for Latanya here. As we mentioned, she ran last year's Lumen 500 and finished seventh in that race, which was unbelievable to see, especially for one of my drivers to go and do that while still running full time for me in the amateur series. In the amateur series, she is second in points, as mentioned, one win so far this season at Rockingham, has three straight top 10 finishes at Aguascalientes, I think it's pronounced, Martinsville, and Winchester. So, very good stretch of races for Latanya, only about let me see here. Only 23 points behind Kaylee Maxwell, but Maxwell has been unbelievable in the amateur series so far this season. A 51.86 on the warm-up lap is very slow, though, and I don't think she's carrying that much speed through 1 and 2. This is actually a very worrying lap for Latanya Gray so far.
And she's picking up some speed down the back straightaway as she goes into that headwind, but she does hit 200 going into turn 201, going into turn 3, so she did find a little bit of speed down the backstretch. That set of corners wasn't great, but maybe that speed that she carried down the straightaway is going to help her out a little bit. Maybe she's got a bit more straight line speed in that 14 rather than arcing the corners. Only 193 across the line. It's going to be a
Oh,
45.658, which is the slowest of the four. She was showing some good straight line speed, but the car just was not handling that well when it was going through the banked corners here at Daytona.
yeah, I don't think she compensated for the wind in the corners that well. It's a 197.118 in terms of speed, half a mile an hour slower than Kevin DuPont, but only 1/10 slower on time, which is very, very interesting to see so far, especially only 4 cars in.
Next out on the track, another Chevrolet, the third to go out in the session, and it's the first McPicky Motorsports car, the number 6 car, driven by Lori Jackson. Last year, she was driving for Checker Flag Motorsports in this event, and she ended up putting up a good enough lap time to make the race, even after she ended up not getting in the top 15 in the duels. And it has been a struggle of a season for Lori Jackson. McPicky Motorsports as a whole has been kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. The 16 and the 66 have been very good this year. Landry had a bit of a slow start, but he has really recovered as of late. And Corbin Taps has been top 3 in points basically the whole year, ever since starting off the season with a pair of victories. But the 1 car and the 6 car, Tim Berry and Lori Jackson, have been 2 of the worst full-time cars this season, whether it be lack of pace, lack of luck, or lack of really anything good happening. But this is a good get-right race for McPicky Motorsports. They're very good at this racetrack, at these kinds of tracks, and they've got a lot of raw speed in their cars as well. So we'll see if Lori Jackson can put up a solid lap time in this 6 car.
Yeah, this is the kind of lap that you have to be good at here if you're Lori Jackson. In my opinion, this moment right here, this race, this qualifying lap, this could set the tone not only for the upcoming week going into the duels in the Lumen 500, but potentially the rest of the season. You're 33rd in points coming into this race. Your best finish is a 7th, and that came a while back in the season at Phoenix. It's a 51.78 on the warm-up lap, faster than Latanya Gray, but we'll see if that translates here as she heads through 1 and 2 down the back straightaway. 194 coming off the corner, but we'll see how fast she can get up to down the back straightaway.
Looking like she's getting a good speed increase down the back. Will hit 200 miles per hour, 201. Maybe gonna get yet just barely breathed on 202. I think these Chevys has some pretty good straight line speed. That seems to be the trend that we're having, but they're struggling a little bit more in the corners. Barely touched 193 exiting turn number 4, but is going to hold 194 down to the run towards the trial, and it's going to be a 45.516. So she is third quickest of the 5 that have gone, just barely ahead of the 98 car, Kevin DuPont. Next car up to qualify is the second Walker Brothers racing car already, and a very striking paint scheme on this one. We've got NASA alongside the 96, driven by Haley Taps. This is a fourth Walker Brothers racing entry. This is the first time since they had Jameson Walker run a few races, I believe, in season 3, where they've entered a fourth car. And I think this is a really cool. This is one of the coolest sponsorships that you could possibly have, I think. Haley Taps, this is her second attempt at the Lumen 500. Last year, she tried it with Blake Everett Motorsports and failed to qualify. In theory, this car should be a little bit faster, but I think Walker Brothers Racing and Honda as a whole have been kind of struggling this year. And Kevin DuPont did not put up the greatest lap times, so we'll see if Taps maybe has any extra speed in that rocket ship of hers.
Yeah, most definitely. This is a very fun paint scheme. Always love to see like stuff like NASA on one of these cars. It's always very fun to see. No stats for Haley Tapp so far this season. I don't believe she's ran any races in the amateur series or the invitational series. So not a lot to go off of.
Haley Taps ran one full amateur series season with Appalachian Motorsports, got a couple of wins there, but she kind of retired from full-time racing after that to go after other endeavors. She's the older sister of Corbin Taps. She has run one cup race in the past at Talladega, and I think she did solid in that race. 51.78 for the warm-up lap, almost identical to the one that we just saw Holly Martin put up. But yeah, this is Haley Taps. This is Haley Taps' second attempt at trying to make this race. She's really just been kind of getting offers as she gets them, which is mainly for this race.
Yeah, I want to look at her teammates this season so far because she's a fourth Walker Brothers car. Charlie McCarron, the best one in points in 19th, 201 heading into turn number 3. Very good speed. Can she carry it? McCarron's the best driver for Walker Brothers. We'll see if Taps can beat that later on tonight. We'll see how McCarron does, and so will we see Darren Walker. But as they come to the line, Haley Taps will have a 45.653.
Just barely faster than LaTanya Gray, but not that fast. 5th out of 6 cars.
Yeah, that's not good. Only 5 1,000s faster than the 14 car. Gonna have some work to do come the duels, I feel, just Haley Taps.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll see what she ends up doing, and she failed to qualify last year, so she's definitely got a chip on her shoulder this year to try and get this car in the field. But only 6 cars down. We still got 42 more to go. We're a long way from figuring out who's won the pole here. Next up is the first Columbia Motorsports car, and we're going to have 2 of them in a row. First one is Akiya Tajima, driving this very nice-looking Nikon livery in that number 99. One of the few drivers that has driven for the same team with the same number in every single season of LSCI competition. Tajima, a veteran, one of the fan favorites, and I think he's around the middle of the pack in terms of the point standings this year. And we'll see what he can do here. Columbia Motorsports, one of the best teams this season. Although only 2 wins for the team, one with JB Cheneau and one for Alnita Kim. Those were both in the first 5 races of the year. But Tajima and also Lake and Herndon have not been quite where Cheneau and Kim have been. So we'll see the kind of pace this 99 car has.
Yeah, you were mentioning the performance of Columbia Motorsports. Akiya Tajima is the worst driver in points right now for the team, 18th in points, just behind Lake and Herndon, who's in 17th. Actually, I believe they're tied on points, so there is that. So actually, no real difference. Tajima's best finish this season is an 8th place finish at Fontana. Herndon's was a 5th at Michigan. Or no, is that I can't tell. I think my brain is finally giving up. But yeah, Alnita Kim, the current points leader. JB Cheneau, Miami. Okay, yeah. I couldn't remember. So
Oh,
I'll need to
that
get.
warm-up lap
Oh,
does not inspire much confidence. Almost in the 52-second range, so not looking like a good start here for Kia Tajima. 194 going through turn 2 here. We'll see if he can maybe pick up some of that speed down the back straightaway, but it's not really pulling much down the back. This is looking like one of our slower lap times so far, and that's a bit of a surprise. I kind of thought that the 99 would be a little bit quicker than this, but we'll see what it looks like coming off of turn number 4.
this is
195.
surprising. Let's see, here we
Not going to
go.
get to 196. 45,571. So that is faster than Taps and Gray, but only 5th out of 7 cars that have gone.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's better than Taps and Gray, like you said, but considering where Sasika was, who's also in a Toyota car, I feel like it's a bit surprising to see how slow the 99 was in comparison to the 12.
And next up is Akiya Tajima's teammate, number 79 of Alnina Kim, your current points leader. And she is locked into the race no matter what happens. Forgot to mention George Bryan was also locked into this race based on owner points. But you know these two are gonna want to improve their starting spot and go for that pole for sure. Even despite already being in the race, because there's a lot of prestige that comes with that pole, and also just not really having to worry about where you finish in your duel as well. But Alnina Kim has been a very impressive rookie this year. Of course, obviously leading the points by over 30 points. Had her first career DNF last week at Iowa after getting involved in a late race pileup. But other than that, Kim has been outstanding in just about every race that she's been in LSCI. Even in her part-time start last year in the 5 car, I believe she got a top 10. So she has been a sensation in the amateur series. She's been a sensation in the Cup series. And we'll see if that'll translate to a qualifying lap here at Daytona. But Alnina Kim, of course, has been turning a lot of heads this year.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable to see what Anita Kim has done this season. Like you said, with her leading the points, she's also got the win at Miami. And aside from that, 3 other third place finishes follow with Alnita Kim. A third at Fontana, Phoenix, and Kansas. Next best, a 4th at Hillside, then a 7th at Rockingham. Only 2 finishes outside of the
Ooh.
top 25 at 27th at Coda and a 35th at Iowa,
This warm-up lap
51.597.
is looking pretty good. That's pretty close to what Paula Sasico ran on her qualifying lap. I don't know if it's quite as good, but if she can get some good speed down the backstretch, she'll definitely have a shot. 198, 199, she will get to 200. I don't think she's carrying quite as much speed into turn number 3. Doesn't quite get to 202, but held 201 for a very long time. It's pretty clear to me that she's probably going to slot into second with this lap if she can just finish it off. Not the greatest turn 4, but we'll see if she can maybe pick up some more speed as she comes across the line. It will be a
Oh,
45.534. That's not quite as fast as I was expecting her to go. She's going to be just ahead of her teammate. That warm-up lap, and that's what we're saying. That warm-up lap is not always indicative of how fast they're going to run on their flyer.
yeah, that's a surprising lap out of Anita Kim. I really thought she was going to be a lot faster than that. I was thinking she'd be like second or third, but no, just 5th place here, ahead of Akiya Tajima, and just behind Kevin Dupont by 5/1000ths of a second. So, very interesting to see the difference between that 12 car and just every other Toyota so far.
Next up is the second Patriot Racing Incorporated car, and this is their part-time 4th entry. Once again driven by Isabella Fitzmaurice, as it has been the past couple of seasons. The Super Speedway merchant herself almost won at Talladega last time we saw her in a Cup car, lost by 8/1000ths of a second to Adrian Wheeler, and she did win her duel last year. She wasn't quite the fastest in single car qualifying, but if you get her in a pack, she knows what she's doing. And this is one of several amateur series drivers that are also running the Cup Series. We saw Latanya Gray go not too long ago, and Fitzmaurice is the second of them who is running in both races next week. We'll see this 80 car get up to speed. The 80 has entered one race this season. It was with Joe Smith at Auto Club, and I believe they got a top 15. But that's definitely not going to be enough owner points to really help them out. They're going to have to race their way into this one.
Yeah, it's going to be very important for Fitzmaurice to do good here in qualifying or even just in the duels. Like he said, won the duel last season. So, going to really need to have it, not just a good starting spot here in order to have a good start in the duel, but also look out in the duel. Make sure you know where you need to be, all things considered, to make it into the Lumen 500 come Tuesday night. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how she does here. Rounding 3 and 4 to complete the warm-up lap. Or see what it is here. It is a 51.666.
Oh boy, I hope
So
that's
it's
not an omen for this qualifying lap, but decent speed going into turn 1. She's holding 195, but we'll see. I think the important part here is how good you can get off of turn 2, but looks like she's carrying some pretty solid speed.
oh wow.
198, she's gonna reach 200. I mean, most of the cars have, but we have seen that a few that haven't. 202 going into turn number 3. Now, if she can hold that
Wow.
speed through turns 3 and 4, this is looking like a pretty good qualifying lap for Isabella Fitzmaurice. We
Oh
saw Alnita Kim fall off through 3 and 4, but she held a decent amount of speed. Let's see what the time is across the line. It's going to be a 45.372. That'll put her in second out of the 9 that have gone. That's a
wow.
great lap. That is a great lap.
Fantastic lap from Fitzmaurice. I just said she needs to have a good qualifying lap here to show the speed of that 80 car, and she did absolutely that. But even with that, Brendan, she's still a tenth of a second by Paula Sequa.
She is the second driver to hit 198 in qualifying as the average lap time, and interestingly, both of them are part-time drivers. So the full-timers need to step it up. They're kind of getting beat. Next up is the other Taps, the one that you're a little more familiar with, Corbin Taps, the 5-time race winner in LSCI. Started this year on an absolute heater. No one had ever won back-to-back races in the LSCI Cup Series until Corbin Taps opened up the season with 2 straight wins. And it's been a bit of a rocky season ever since, but he's really been riding off the points of those 2 wins. I believe he is right now second in points, or at least, at the very least, up inside the top 5. He's actually 4th in points, my bad, but still has been having a pretty good season. He's leading the McPickey cars in the point standings. And Corbin Taps is also one of our best super speedway racers, so this guy is definitely a threat for the pole, I'd say.
Yeah, Taps is always something you got to look out for, just period. In the LSCI, like you said, started the season with 2 straight wins. But after that, he had one top 15 finish until we got to Iowa, where he finished 3rd in that race. So ever since Rockingham, it's been a bit of a struggle for Taps, but seems like he's got the mojo back a bit more with that 3rd at Iowa. And the McPickett cars, we know they're good. Lori Jackson currently sits in 4th right now in the timing at a 45.516. We'll see how Taps compares to his teammate.
Coming down to the start-finish line to complete his warm-up lap, Corbin Taps with a 51.844. That's not amazing, but again, we've seen better warm-up laps come up with worse qualifying runs. So again, not necessarily an indicator that this run is going to be all that slow for Corbin Taps. What is more of an indicator is how he was going through turns 1 and 2, because that exit off of turn 2 was very slow, and he is not pulling much speed down the backstretch. This is looking like
Oh
a
no.
pretty slow lap time for Corbin Taps, which is a huge shocker here. I really thought that Taps would be better than this. I mean, we've seen a lot of surprises so far in this qualifying session with drivers we didn't expect to be fast being fast, and drivers we expected to be quicker being slow. That's a 45.625, only ahead of Haley Taps and Latanya Gray, 8th out of the 10 cars.
That is shockingly slow from Taps. I know we said Alnita Kim was a bit surprising, but this is a real shocker right here. I don't think anyone expected Corbin Taps to be 8th out of 10 to start qualifying.
And even then, Alnita Kim is still 6th out of 10, so that's still decent, but that's not great for Corbin Taps. But the good news for him, he is one of those cars that is locked into the race no matter what, so he won't have to worry about DQing, but if he wants a good starting spot, he's going to have to hustle in the duel. Next up is the number 41 of Karina Willis Calloway, the original winner in the LSCI at Daytona all the way back in season 1, but she has gone winless ever since. This team's struggles have been well documented. Connie Twins Motorsports, and this year seems to be their toughest yet, as Karina's had a very bad season in that 41. Very uncharacteristic of her. She's been able to carry this car for the past couple of seasons, but this year things just seem to be collapsing in on them. But this is a good chance for them to try and turn it around if they can put together a solid lap here. We know the Toyotas are pretty fast. Paula Sasiqua currently sitting on the pole, so maybe Karina Willis Calloway's got a good lap in her as well.
Yeah, it would definitely be cool to see Karina Willis Calloway have a good qualifying lap here. She's been struggling heavily this season, the worst of the full time drivers because of Shelton missing Iowa last week. Karina Willis Calloway's 34th in points, has one top 15 to her name, four top 20s, the other three of those being two 18ths and a 19th. Outside of that, 23rd at Iowa, 29th at Fontana, and three finishes below 31st. So it's been a big struggle for Karina Willis Calloway this season. I don't think it's something that it was necessarily expected that she would be good, but I don't think it was expected that she would be this bad either.
Yeah, of course, Connie Twins Motorsports, a very small team, scaling back to only one full-time car this year. 51.706, not a terrible warm-up lap for that 41. Maybe she's got a little bit of speed in that car, but Karina's really going to have a good qualifying between this and the duels. If she wants a shot to make the Lumen 500. Of course, last year she was actually doing so well that she was 5th in points and she didn't have to worry about missing the race, but now she's in a lot of danger in that 41 car. Although she hit 201 entering turn number 3, this might be a solid lap if she can keep that speed through the corners. It is scrubbing off, kind of like what we saw with Alnita Kim,
Oh,
though. So maybe not quite as much. That wind is really messing with the aerodynamics of the cars out of turn number 4. It's going to be a 45.702,
oh,
the slowest one so far out of the 11 that have gone.
yeah, and I believe that's going to be below 197 on the speed. I think that's going to be a 196. Yeah, 196.928 miles per hour. That is. I'm not trying to sound the alarm, but if I'm Karina Willis Calloway in that team, I'm really nervous going into duels on Tuesday.
Next up for qualifying is Jake Sidney in the number 19 for Hudson Motorsports. And this is the first Ford to go out, surprisingly. We're 12 cars in, and it's taken this long for a Ford to show up. Not really sure what the pace is going to be for these Fords. They didn't have a ton of pace last year, although we did see some good runs from drivers like Jake Sidney and also Damon Kirby as well. Both of them are in this group again, so it'll be interesting to see if the Fords have some good pace in this qualifying run, but they have been struggling in general. Zach Dearman and Jake Sidney are both in the top 12 in points, but the rest of them have just not had that great a runs, so we'll see if this Hudson Motorsports driver, last year's winner of the Lumen 500, can back it up with a good qualifying run.
Yeah, it's a beautiful paint scheme on that 19 car, too. Absolutely love the Raising Cane's design for Jake Sidney here this year at Daytona. Yeah, 12th in points coming into this race. Best finish of third at Atlanta to open the season. But after that, it's been kind of on and off. A couple more top 10s, a couple more top 15s, but also a couple finishes outside the top 20 and one in 33rd. So, bit of a struggle for Sidney overall compared to how he was last season, I believe. And like we said, his teammate Zach Dearman got the first win for Ford last week at Iowa. But who knows? Sidney won this race last year. Maybe he could shock the world and go on the pole here at Daytona. Or
That's
not.
not a good warm-up lap. 51.980. He barely crossed 191 across the start-finish line. This is not setting a good precedent for the Fords. Holding 193 around the entire turn That's not really where you want to be, but maybe he can get some speed in the second half of the track, and he is picking up a little bit, but again, not much pace in this 19 car. Jake Sidney, a big drop off from where he was last year. He does hold 200 for a decent amount of time, so he's taking turn 3 pretty well, but yeah, just not much
Uh,
speed. Oh,
oh
dip down
god.
to 192 coming off of turn 4. This might be the slowest lap yet here for Jake Sidney.
Oh,
45.769. Indeed, it is the slowest that we have seen yet. 12th out of 12 cars, and that is not a good omen for the Fords.
not only was he slowest, he's slowest by a considerable margin, half a tenth behind Karina Willis Calloway, 196.64 miles an hour. That is frightening if you're a Ford driver, I think, coming into this race.
Next up is another car that we're all going to be paying attention to because this is the driver and team that won the pole last year. Michael Harvin, driving for Motor Racing Ventures. This is the first MRV car on the track tonight. We know that the Chevrolets have a decent amount of speed. They're second, third, and fourth on the timesheet so far. So, well, we'll see if Michael Harvick can go back to back on poles here. He's had a bit of a struggle. He's had a hard season so far, but he did up to this point last year as well before pulling off that monster lap last year. But we'll see if this 55's got the same speed it did in 2025. Harvin definitely one to watch out for sure in this 55 car.
Yeah, we know that 55 is fast on qualifying, at least here at Daytona, but overall this season it has been a struggle. 3 top 15s before Iowa, in which Iowa probably could have been a race win for Michael Harvin. That 55 car was really fast last week. But the main thing I'm looking at here on the stat sheet for Harvin is that D and Q from Circuit of the Americas. That is a blemish you do not want to have on your resume at any point in the season. But he's not the only driver full time to have that, obviously. But it's something to keep an eye on. He's 26 in points entering this race, right behind Kevin Dupont, ahead of Damon Kirby. And as they come out of turn, he's only going 189.
Oh, he is struggling with pace. 190 across the line. 52.039. That's the first warm-up lap in the 52s that we've seen. And it just continues to be a shocking shocking qualifying session so far. Everybody that we hype up seems to just not have the pace on their qualifying runs. Picking up some speed
This is
down the
just
back straightaway. I don't even know if he's going to get 200. He does, but not for very long. This is looking like another one of our slower lap times.
this is just shocking to see. I don't think anyone expected this coming into this. Down to 192 and considerably down to 192. Out of turn number 4, he'll cross the line to finally let the mercy happen and let this be over. It's a 45.917.
Oh my
Oh
goodness. That
no!
is very far off of Jake Sidney's time for Michael Harvin. And I mean, this is the car that won pole last year. So you gotta wonder what changes did they make this year to make it go that much slower?
It's a 1.5 tenth difference between him and Jake Sidney, and it's an average speed of 196.006, 6 tenths of a mile an hour behind Jake Sidney. We were talking about the Fords have a lot to do. I'm starting to worry about MRV in general because Michael Harvin way off the pace here in qualifying.
Next up is the Streamline Racing Ford of Damon Kirby. He was one of the 9 drivers to have a lap of 200 miles an hour last year. In fact, he was the first driver to do it, but he also ended up being the slowest of the drivers that did it. But he did that while driving for Checkered Flag Racing. This year, driving for Streamline Racing. He's actually had himself a decent season, for the standards of that team. Only 27th in points, which isn't spectacular, but he's had some pretty solid pace in that 70 car that we weren't really expecting, especially since this team struggled a lot last year, towards the end of the year. I believe at one point Andrew Kreider, who was driving the car at that time, DNQ'd 5 weeks in a row. So, it's been a struggle for Streamline Racing, but this year they've had a bit of a step up, and this is their home track. They're based out of Ocala, Florida, so They've always got this date circled every year, and this team is one of the favorites for sure among the fans.
Yeah, to say it's been a struggle this season, it's been an understatement, I would feel, or just in general for them. DMQ to open the season at Atlanta, but aside from that, actually, it's not all doom and gloom. They do have two top tens, a seventh at Miami and a eighth at Hillside, so it's definitely not been horrible for Damon Kirby so far this season. Lap time 51.73 to open it, and
That's
as they
decent.
head into the qualifying lap, up to 194 heading into turn number one. Not exactly inspiring confidence, but if he can roll 194 throughout the whole corner, he should be looking good.
He
Gets up to
is, and he's
195,
gaining
and here we
speed
go.
on the exit. So
Here we go.
he's looking significantly faster than the other Ford that has gone out. In fact, he's looking very good as he goes into turn number 3. Almost got to 202, but he does hold 201. However, the speed is scrubbing off like we've seen through 3 and 4 once you get into that wind blowing against you
Uh,
there. Holding 194 down the front stretch in through the tribal. We'll see what the lap time is. 45.531. That's not too bad for Damon Kirby. That's going to put him in 6th out of the 14 that have qualified. And for a small team like that, you got to feel really good about that qualifying lap.
yeah, that's really good, especially being ahead of the points leader, Alnita Kim. That is fantastic to see out of Damon Kirby. And that does bring some hope back into the Ford camp, I would feel, after Jake Sidney's qualifying lap. This is a good lap from Damon Kirby, and that might be enough if everything goes wrong in the duels to get him into the Lumen 500.
Next up is series veteran Martin Swain driving the number 20 car. He's run a couple of races so far this season, but he's always a threat here at Daytona. He had a very good duel in season 3, leading every lap of his duel, and ended up winning that duel, of course. And then last year he ended up in the top 15. So this is a big year for Martin Swain. He owns this team that he's driving for, Martin Swain Race Team, and they're full time for the first time this year with Kobe Hollenbeck in their other car. You'll see him go up about 6 or 7 cars from now, but Swain himself, of course, has run a couple races too, and he always makes sure that he gets to the Lumen 500. I think this is, if we're going to see an underdog challenge Paula Sasiqua here, I think Martin Swain is a pretty good pick, honestly. He's usually got some pretty good pace in these machines.
Yeah, Swain's always someone you want to look out for here at Daytona, I feel like, or just in general whenever he shows up. I know he hasn't been great, like in his few appearances this season. D&Q at Atlanta, a 22nd at Fontana, and a 16th at Hillside. But that doesn't tell the full story about Martin Swain in general. He's running a full-time car with Kobe Hollenbeck behind the wheel, and this is a passion project, I feel, mainly for Martin Swain, for him to run in the Lumen 500. Not great out of turn 4, but we'll see here as they cross the line to start the flying lap. It is a 50. Oh.
2.168. Yeah, this isn't looking very good for Martin Swain. I was going to point out, I think he's the only driver that's running the exact same paint scheme that he debuted with, although with some minor alterations, of course, and a number change. But this is not looking good for Martin Swain. Not a good qualifying lap. Breathed on 192 coming out of turn number 2 and not picking up a lot of speed down the backstretch. This might be our slowest lap time yet. That warm-up lap, again, like we said, did he even get to 198 going into turn
No, no,
3?
he did not.
Oh
He did
man,
not. Oh, no,
yeah.
don't go to 191. Okay, at least he's going to go to
I
191.
don't think the track conditions are changing for the better for these later drivers. That could definitely be contributing to the slower laps. 45.908. I
Not the
don't think
slowest.
that's the slowest. He did beat Michael Harvin, but Martin Swain, of course,
It's
this car being a part-time car, he's go or go home, and he's really going to need to go in the duels.
yeah, that's it's worrying for Martin Swain at this point. That's not good.
And our final car of Group 1 is out, and it is Michael Harvin's teammate, Jacob Lopez. So, not a good sign because Harvin did not have a great qualifying run, but we know Jacob Lopez, the all-time wins leader, 10 LSCI wins to his name. None of them coming in restrictor plate races, though, which includes the Lumen 500, of course. So definitely wanting to turn that around here and add that trophy to his pretty large trophy case. Of course, he became the first driver to ever win 3 consecutive LCI races in a row. Did it at Phoenix, Kansas in the closest finish in LCI history, and then also at Hillside. Did not back it up at Iowa last week, though, had a pretty rough outing, but this is another car that is locked into the field based on owner points. We've already seen 4 of those drivers go out here in Group 1. So Lopez doesn't have to worry about getting into the race, but he's going to want to try and shoot for pole here. Although, with the lack of pace we saw from Michael Harvin, it's going to be pretty tough for this 50 car.
Yeah, I'd be a bit worried about Lopez considering the pace of that 55, but considering Lopez has such a better resume when it comes to just general stuff in LSCI, like we said, three race wins in a row. Although, to be honest, that isn't like it's impressive, yes, but those are his only top fives of the season. We'll see here at the line, the warm up lap. I don't think this is fast. Oh no.
51.9, yeah. He only got to 190 across the line. So, I mean, it's looking better than Harvin's, at least so far, but it's not looking that much better.
The bar is currently in
192.
a toilet, though.
Yeah, 192 going around the corners. He is picking up speed pretty rapidly down the backstretch, but not as much as he'd want, especially since it doesn't seem like he had much pace in that first part of the lap. He's not going to get to 201 entering turn 3, so this is looking like one of our slower laps. Not quite Michael Harvin levels of slow, but I'd say he'd be around where Jake Sidney, Karina Willis Calloway is. But not a good exit off of turn 4, and that could lose him even more time. Here he comes across the start-finish line, 45.833, 14th out of the 16 cars. And yeah, those Motor Racing Ventures cars do not look very good in terms of their straight line speed, in terms of their speed outside of the draft. But that team definitely has a lot to work on. But again, Lopez, not much to worry about in terms of making the race.
He's in the race, yes, but you don't want to be so slow in qualifying that becomes a detriment, especially in the duels, Like 14th here, and your teammate's in 16th, and you still have, like 2 more MRV cars coming up here, and James Harvin and Adrian Wheeler. Those two I'd be very worried about later on tonight, because this is not looking good for MRV so far in qualifying.
And next up on the track to start off group number 2 is the number 32 of Kate Summers, the second Pacific Racing car to go out. And the first one to go out is still top of the charts, the number 12 car of Paula Sasikwa. We got a new co-commentator in the booth here. It is Caleb Rose. And Caleb, we have seen a lot so far in these first 16 drivers. What are your takeaways so far from this session?
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting so far, just to say the least. Like you said, Paulo Zizikwa right now at the top of the charts, which is kind of a surprise to see, but after considering that they've got a win so far this season, honestly, not the most surprising thing in the world still, but gonna be exciting to see what Kate Summers can do here, considering their teammates with Zizikwa, but still a lot more surprises in this qualifying session as well. Of course, one of the big stories we've seen so far is just the lack of pace so far for Motor Racing Ventures especially. Kind of just seems like they've not been in the right headspace here tonight, and honestly, a lot of the Chevrolets in general have kind of been a little bit off the pace. Corbin Tapp's not with the best lap there in that 16. Saw laps from George Bryan, Laurie Jackson, but that's pretty much all they've got at this point, so have to see if they can maybe improve here as this night does go along, but definitely been a bit of a challenge for those Motor Racing Ventures and Dickey Motorsports cars, but Kate Summers now out on the racetrack in the 32. Like we were talking about, Zizikwa on the pole in that fellow Pacific Racing car, so we'll have to see what Summers can do here in that number 32.
This warm-up lap is looking about average, 51.8 for Kate Summers, but she carried a lot of speed across the line, so just touched 196 going into turn number 1, and like we mentioned when Sasika was out, Pacific Racing had kind of struggled in single-car qualifying last year, so they're already setting the bar a lot higher than last year. Pacific Racing as a whole are actually leading the constructor standings right now, so a big improvement from that team. Not looking like the best lap from Kate Summers, though. Just barely got to 199 entering turn number 3. She's had a little bit more consistency on this lap, but it's not looking great. She's going to carry a little bit of speed off of turn number 4. and get some of that time back, but she's not going to be anywhere near Paula Sisiqua, it appears. 45.605 for the 32 car. And that's gonna put her right in the middle of the field. 9th out of 17 cars that have gone out so far for the lift machine.
Really got interesting there from Kate Summers. Have to see how the rest of the Pacific Racing cars do, but definitely probably not the lap they were looking for, where their teammates placed on the charts right now.
Next up on the track is the second Hudson Motorsports car. This is the number 91, driven by Andrew Kreider. And the story goes for Andrew Kreider, of course, he's the owner of Streamline Racing. We already saw one of his cars go out, the number 70 of Damon Kirby, who's currently 6th on the timesheet. The Florida native himself. He actually was eligible to run the Clash at Calder Park. I'm going to restart that. Sorry. Too much stuttering for my liking. I got to get it together. I've been fumbling. Figure it out. Okay. Pre-race exhibition. That was the word I was trying to find. Okay. And next up on the track is the number 91 Hudson Motorsports Ford, driven by Andrew Kreider. And his story is definitely an interesting one. Of course, we mentioned he's the owner of Streamline Racing. Already one of their cars has gone out. Damon Kirby, who currently sits 6th in the point standings, but Kreider usually drives his own cars, but he had an opportunity to drive a Hudson Motorsports car in the Clash at Calder Park, the exhibition race, before the season started, after he was eligible to run that race, but could not bring 2 cars down to Australia, as Damon Kirby was also eligible to run. Hudson Motorsports offered them the 18 car, and he had a top 5 run and led a lot of laps in that race, and his performance in that event ended up earning him a ride in a 4th car for them here in the Lumen 500, and he is definitely going to be a favorite among the crowd, being a Florida native himself. So in front of the home fans, this race means a lot to him, and this is probably the biggest chance that he's ever going to get at winning this race. So we'll see if he can capitalize on that in this 91 car.
Yeah, definitely going to be very exciting to see here what Andrew Kreider can do. Like you mentioned, really impressed there with that start in the Calder Park Clash on the Hudson Motorsports car. So going to be interesting to see what he can do here in the Lumen 500. Definitely kind of weird to see this, considering we're so used to seeing him in his own cars at this point, driving for his own team, Streamline Racing, but he's got a great shot here in this 91, and I'm very excited to see what he can do with it here. Not the best out lap from what we've seen so far, but second lap is what matters, so have to see if he can pick it up here on lap 2.
He's holding 193 going around the corner. He's going to try and pick up some speed, but this 91 does not look like it's much faster than Jake Sidney's lap, and the Hudson Motorsports cars have been struggling for pace here, although he is gaining quite a bit of time down the back. Yeah, he's getting some of it back. He got up to 201, so maybe not quite down to where Jake Sidney is. He's going to have to hold that line out of turn number 4, though. Doesn't dip into 192, so it's definitely looking better than Sidney, but it's not looking like a fantastic lap here for Andrew Kreider. 45.638, though. That's actually going to put him in 11th. And most notably, that puts him ahead of some of the other go-home cars like Haley Taps and Latanya Gray that don't have any owner points. So that could definitely help him if it ends up coming down to the qualifying times, if he's not able to get in normally. Just those extra little bits count a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Probably not the lap time that he wanted, but still a solid lap out of that 91. And like you mentioned, being ahead there of the 14 and the 96 could definitely play some dividends once everything is said and done. So have to see how that lap time holds up here in the grand scheme of things. But Andy Kreider definitely looking pretty solid with that lap time.
Next up on the track is the first of the two NH Motorsports Menards Toyotas. This is the 27 driven by Holly Martin. I'm almost certain I called Lori Jackson Holly Martin at some point, but this is Holly Martin in the number 27 car, returning to NH Motorsports after 2 years at McPickey Motorsports that didn't go the greatest. She did get her first career win, but underperformed in that 6 car. Although she did do better than Lori Jackson's currently been doing in that 6 when she was in it, but no, this is another Toyota, and we've seen consistent, solid pace from the Toyotas here. I mean, the slowest of them that have gone out, granted, there's only been 4 of them that have taken a lap so far, is Kate Summers, and she currently sits in 9th. So, this 27 car could have quite a bit of speed, and also, this 27 was one of the fastest cars in single car qualifying last year when Adrian Pearson was driving it.
Definitely, these cars have definitely shown a lot of speed here at Daytona in years past, and like you're talking about, the Toyotas have definitely seemed pretty good so far here tonight from Daytona, so have to see if Holly Martin can continue the trend in that NH Motorsports number 27. I believe the first NH Motorsports car to go out, at least before teammate JT Boyd, so have to see how this 27 car holds up here. Be interesting to see indeed.
Not the greatest warm-up laps, but we've seen quite a few warm-up laps in the 51.9s up to this point. Whereas it was pretty concerning when it was when they were first kind of heading out. The speeds are definitely a lot slower than I was expecting. In general, I thought we'd have a little more cars heading up in the 198 range, but let's see. Holly Martin is going to hit 200, entering turn number
Again.
3. She just barely kissed 201, but not a whole lot more than that. See if she can carry some of that speed through the corner off of turn 4. Holds 193 and continuing to hold 193 as she heads across the start-finish line. It's going to be a 45.737. Not a very good lap for Holly Martin. Just ahead of Jake Sidney. She'll be 15th out of 19, and that's bit slower than I was kind of expecting that 27 to go. I thought she'd be quicker than that, but that seems to be the trend here with qualifying. We got some cars that, every time we say, oh, this car is going to probably put up a pretty good lap time, they end up putting up a dud.
Yeah, same over here. It definitely looked like that 27 had a decent amount of speed, at least there down the back straightaway. Did tick up to 201 there for a second, and looked like they had solid pace through 3 and 4 as well. Just been 1 and 2, probably didn't build up enough speed on that outlap, and that probably cost him in the first half of the lap. So tough break there for Holly Martin, but 27 definitely have some speed. See if they can transverse that into race pace, but not looking good already here in qualifying for that 27.
And out on the track, 2 cars after her husband is JC Kreider, driving the number 78. This is her 4th attempt at making the Lumen 500, and she has yet to do it in any of her previous 3 starts. Got so close last year at the end of her duel. She was sitting in a transfer spot on the 1-lap dash, but ended up getting passed on the final lap and losing out on a spot in the race. Kreider has 1 start in the LSCI, which was season 2 at Homestead. But she's attempted this race at Daytona every season, and it's a long shot every time that she gets in this car, but she's shown that she has the capability to get up in there and get herself in position. Just needs to kind of execute it. But JC Kreider, the other half of the only husband and wife duo in the race.
It'll be interesting to see what JC Kreider can do here. The Streamline Racing car is definitely looking fast so far. As apparent there with Damon Kirby still 6th on the board in that number 70 machine, but I know JC definitely coming into this race with a huge chip on their shoulders. They've come close to making this race on a couple occasions, I do believe, but has just barely missed out, especially last year, getting passed on the last lap of the duel. So it'll be interesting to see what Kreider can do this time around. Maybe looking to try and not worry about the duel entirely. Have to see what they can do here on their qualifying lap.
This warm-up lap looks really fast from JC Kreider. Is it possible? 51.4 on the warm-up. I mean, that's close to what Sasiqua ran. She's holding 194 around the corner. And she's gaining a little bit of
95,
speed. Maybe this
96.
car's
Oh
198. Maybe
my
this car's got
goodness.
some qualifying trim on it. She's past 200 already. 201,
202.
202. Not quite going to get 203 like Sasequa did, but she is going to challenge that 12 car for the top spot on the grid. What is happening in this qualifying session? The part timers have shown up for sure, and JC Kreider's going to have a shot at pole, but she'll fall
45
short.
4.
That's a third place qualifying time, just short of the front
my
row,
goodness.
but still an amazing effort from JC Kreider. Lots of speed in that 78 car. And like I said, what on earth is happening in these qualifying sessions?
My goodness, what a lap there out of the 78 of JC Kreider. Definitely obvious that that team has shown up with a lot of speed, and Kreider does not want a repeat of the previous years. In fact, this time around, she might not even have to worry about the duels with a lap like that. We'll see how that holds up, but a fantastic lap there at the 78 of JC Kreider. And my goodness, like you said, just what is happening? Seen a lot of surprises here so far in qualifying, and that definitely one to add to the list.
Next up on the track is the number 2 of Kobe Hollenbeck, the second of the Martin Swain race team cars. We already saw Martin Swain go out earlier, and he's 19th of 20 so far in the timesheet. So, not inspiring a lot of confidence for Kobe Hollenbeck here. A lot of the Chevrolets have been struggling for speed, but there's also a lot that are up towards the front of the timesheet. Namely, the Patriot Racing Incorporated cars are 2nd and 4th right now. But Caleb, what are we expecting from Kobe Hollenbeck here? This is his first year with this team. He's been at Columbia Motorsports for quite a long time, but he's had his kind of ups and downs this season. He's had a lot of good speed, but also has gotten into a lot of incidents. So, what are we expecting from this 2-car?
Honestly, like you said, it's honestly been kind of a roller coaster of a year for that 2-car. He's definitely shown quite a bit of pace on multiple occasions, but like you said, some he's been able to bring home, some not quite, and so you don't really know what to expect on a weekly basis out of this tube machine of Kobe Hollenbeck. But like I said, he definitely seems to still have the speed that he's had in years past, so I have to see what he can do here in qualifying there for Martin Swain Racing. Like I said, the team owner and teammate there to that number 2 machine. Not the best qualifying lap for that number 20, so to see if they
Although,
kind of pulled their resources here in that 2 machine, but
I just want to
know,
mention
already.
he did not dip below 190 exiting turn 4, so he's in a very good spot to have a great start to this lap, holding 194 through the corner. The warm-up lap is not like super exceptional, but that run he got off of turn 4 could prove very significant on this lap time. And he is gaining speed down the back
And
straightaway,
he's
getting to 200 already. 201. Could he get to 202? No, not quite. But this is still looking like a great lap time for this 2-car. Definitely sharp contrast to Martin Swain's lap time. Loss of speed off turn 4, but he gained it back, holding 194. This is looking like one of our better lap times so far. It's going to be a 45.530. That'll put him 8th out of 21.
All right.
Very good.
Really
very good run for. Actually, that puts him 7th. He'll jump Damon Kirby as well. He'll just split the gap between DuPont and Kirby. But a good run for that 2-car.
Definitely really solid lap there, that 2 machine of Kobe Hollenbeck. Proving my point kind of that he still definitely has the pace behind the number 2 machine that he's had in years past. Honestly, this season just hasn't really been able to find the luck that he's probably had in past seasons, but maybe things will change today in this year's Lumen 500. Have to see how he does, but definitely already looking good here in qualifying.
Next up is the number 52, the first of the Blake Everett Motorsports cars. This is Bridget Brosseau, and she's run a few races in this 52 up to this point. I believe her best finish was a 5th place at Texas a couple years ago in that wild finish to that race that ended on fuel mileage. But this is the first time Brosseau has attempted the Lumen 500. I believe this is the first time Brosseau has attempted a plate race in general. in LSCI. And I believe this is also her first attempt of the season in a Cup Series race. But she is one of the amateur drivers that is also running this race, and she's doing pretty well for herself in amateur series points. She's up there in the top 10. I believe she is right now 8th in amateur series points, just coming off of a 3rd place finish at Winchester last week. But Blake Everett Motorsports had a very bad speed weeks last year. Only one of their cars made the field. That was Ashley Blake. Granted, Ashley Blake did end up getting a top 15 in that race, but definitely looking for a better run than last year for that team.
Yeah, definitely have to see what Brousseau can do here in the number 52. Like you said, having a great season so far in the amateur series, so we'll have to see how that skill translates here to the Lumen 500. I'll definitely say it definitely seems to have been fruitful so far here to these part-time cars, and not about bad outlap at all there for the 52. 51.651. I don't know if it'll be pole speed, but still looking really good for that number 52 here so far as they head through turns 1 and 2.
Holding 194, 195 on the exit of turn 2. I think the trend of the part-timers doing really well in qualifying is going to continue. She's already up to 200, 201, 202.
202.
And this is looking like another fantastic lap for the part-timers. Bridget Brousseau, rounding turn number 4, is not even going to dip below 194. This is going to be an excellent lap for Brousseau coming across the line. 45.438. And that will put her in 4th. And the part-timers,
are you kidding me,
have taken up the entire top 4 in qualifying.
I don't think I have ever seen anything like this. What a performance from Bridget Brousseau. And the part-timers sweeping the first 4 cars right now in qualifying. Have you ever?
I have never. I mean, this is kind of like 2008 when all the go-or-go homers would show up to the plate tracks with their souped up full qualifying trim. I suspect something similar might be happening here, and that would explain all this craziness. But we just kind of gotta flip who we expect to compete for the pole here at this point. Next up is the number 88 car of Billy Smith, and we've continued to see those part-time drivers just absolutely light up the timesheet. But, Billy Smith, not a part-timer, but he was a part-timer when he won the Lumen 500 2 years ago. And Caleb, you were in the booth for that race, so you remember what went down in that one. Billy had a very fast car in the race, and he has historically been pretty good at this racetrack. Got caught up in a late race incident last year, and he was one of the fastest qualifiers so far. Patriot Racing Incorporated's 2 cars that have gone so far are both in the top 5. Isabella Fitzmaurice currently sits 2nd. George Bryan is the fastest of the full-time cars, currently sitting in P5. Caleb, do you think Billy Smith's got some similar pace to those 2?
Have to see if he does. I know this race is definitely one that this 88 car was looking forward to. Like you mentioned, coming in this race as a part-timer a couple of years ago, still only has 1 win to his name, but it is this very race, the Lumen 500 a couple of years ago. Said Daytona definitely seems to kind of be still one of those 88's more solid racetracks, so have to see how he does in this race. But I know that 88's going to be souped up and ready to roll here in this one. To see if that car is hooked up here in qualifying. Not the best at lap. It's looking dipped to 189. They're off a turn at number 4. We'll see what it clocks in here at the line. 51.8. So not the worst, not the best.
We'll see if he can gain a little bit more time, though. He dipped down to 192, and now he's holding 193 around the corner, so this is definitely not looking like the same pace that his teammates have. But he could still get himself a solid lap time going into the duels. Looks like he's going to get to 200 as he gets into turn 3. He does get to 201, so this is looking like maybe at least in the mid-pack in terms of where the laps are. Maybe a little bit upper middle of the field. 193, still holding 193 coming out of the corner. We'll see what that lap time is. He's still holding 193. Not a good exit off of turn 4. And it's a 45.725. That ended up really killing him right there. You cannot have that kind of exit off of turn number 4. And he is going to be 19 or 18th rather out of the 23 cars that have gone so far. So pretty far off of his two teammates.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a rough lap there from the number 88 of Billy Smith, but we just still got the duels up ahead, so looking to maybe try and better his starting position through them. And so maybe some cars here today, maybe just waiting it out, saving their stuff with the keeping the race trims on them and waiting for the duels and the main event. So have to see what that 88 car can do once we do get to the duels and the main race. But definitely has a hill to climb here after qualifying.
Next up is Tamarin Bellinger driving the number 65 for Diamond Motorsports. And we pointed out a few different cars that have struggled this season, but you'd be hard pressed to find a car that has struggled more than this number 65 has. They have DNQ'd 6 of the first 9 races. They've had 3 different drivers drive this thing, and none of them have really found any modicum of success. Cameron Bellinger's best race is actually the Calder Park Clash, where they actually managed a 3rd place finish, but that was not indicative of how the rest of the season is going to go. Bellinger has only run 2 races so far, or has only qualified for 2 races so far, with a best finish of 30th, which was at the season opener at Atlanta. Had a mechanical failure midway through the Iowa race, and then also got caught up in the late race crash as well. Bellinger got benched after race number 4, but none of the drivers that replaced them did a whole lot better, so they actually put Bellinger back in the car last week and has continued to keep Bellinger in the car here at Daytona. Tamarin Bellinger's had a sordid history with this race. The only time that they made the race was with Martin Swain Race Team in the 2 car a couple years ago, and they ended up upside down in turn number 2. So Bellinger's trying to turn that around and try and get the 65 car into the field. And, with what we've seen in qualifying here, I wouldn't count this car out for the pole either. I wouldn't count any of them out at this rate, although that warm-up lap is not looking promising.
Honestly, so far this season for Diamond Motorsports, it just seemed like the tale of 2 cars almost. You got the 58 of Joanna Clark having a very solid season so far, up there in the mix for the championship hunter, at least the Chase Sons as it stands right now, but it has been a struggle, just to say the least, for this number 65 team, and we're just looking for a turnaround here in the Lumen 500, going to get to 200 there through 3 and 4, so not looking like the best lap, but like an okay lap here out of the 65. We'll see what Bellinger clocks in here at the line, but I know this team is definitely looking for a turnaround here in this race. It'll be interesting to see what they can do. Cross the line, 45.783. Not the best, 21st. But it could be worse for that number 65.
That's 21st out of 24, so that's a pretty slow lap time for the 65. But they did beat 3 cars, so I guess, they've qualified worse, so it's going to definitely be coming down to the duels for Tamarin Bellinger and this Diamond Motorsports team. Next up on the track, the number 62 car, the 3rd Pacific racing to go out. It's Vinnie Scholes driving the Hulu car. She is a past pole winner here at Daytona, although that was before we did the single car quali trials. And, she has yet to get her first LSCI win, despite attempting every single race. Having a pretty solid season so far. She is currently inside the chase, P9 in points, so definitely a step up from where she was last year, where she failed to record a single top 5 in that season. And, she's got a teammate currently sitting on the pole, Paula Sisiqua, although her other teammate, Kate Summers, is dead center of the field, currently P12. But Vinnie Scholes, one of the best in the business at the big ovals. So we'll see if Vinnie has some good quality speed in that 62 car.
See what Vinnie can do here in this race. We've seen they've had some past success here in qualifying for the Lumen 500, so I have to see if they can see a repeat. Even better the race results as well. But here we go as the outlap continues on, dipping down to 190 there through turn 4. So looking like a solid outlap here for the 60. We'll see what it clocks in here at the line. 51.899. Could be better, could be worse. Have to see what they can do on their time lap here.
Yeah, holding 194 around the corners. I mean, we've seen a lot of the faster cars be able to do that, but the key here is that you need to gain some time down the back straightaway. And Vinny Schultz is looking like she's doing that okay. Not spectacularly, but she's already hit 200, 201, maybe going to get to 202. She does get to 202
Yeah.
for just a split second going into turn 3. So she can maintain that speed through 3 and 4. This is looking like a solid lap for her. Does not dip below 194. So
Ooh.
I think Vinny Schultz is looking to get into the upper echelon of times here. Coming across the line, 45.498. That's going to be P6 out of the 25 that
Right.
have gone. Still not up there with those 4 part-timers at the top of the timesheet, but she's second of the full-timers.
But a lap there, the number 62 of Vinny Schultz. Pacific Racing's definitely brought some speed here to the high banks here at Daytona. Great lap there, the number 62 of Vinny Schultz looking to finally break through and nab their first career victory. Knock on wood. Hopefully I did not jinx that.
Next up is another driver that a lot of people are watching, but maybe not for the same reasons that we mentioned for Corbin Taps or Michael Harvin or any of them. This is Duncan Ward, Wawa Cup Series champion, making his first attempt at a Lumen Stock Invitational Series race. He is an amateur series driver. He just recently got his first amateur series win, driving for Seven Hills Autosport at Martinsville. And he's doing pretty good for himself so far in the amateur series, currently sitting in P4 in the point standings. But these are his first laps in a cup car, driving for Checker Flag Racing in this number 9 car. Caleb, the bagpipes are playing. What are we expecting from Duncan Ward here?
Oh man, honestly, can't really know what to expect with a driver like this. We know Duncan Ward very, very well and just how unpredictable of a driver he is. So, going to be very fascinating to see what he can do here. Like you mentioned, the first laps that he's turned here in a Lumen Stock Car Invitational Cup car. So, very interested to see how this 9 car does. But we were talking about the part timers being really fast here so far. So, have to see if the same speed comes here to the 9 of Duncan Ward.
Yeah, he's not looking quite as fast as some of those other part timers. In fact, that outlap doesn't look spectacular, but again, we'll cut him some slack. He's in a checkered flag racing car for one, and it's also his first time out on the track, so I mean, could be worse, but he's not doing too great. 193 through turns 1 and 2. We'll see if he can maybe pick that up down the back straightaway. And he gained a bit of speed there on the exit of the corner. He is going to get to 200, as most of the cars have. 201 entering turn number 1, or turn number 3 rather, for just a split second. It's not looking like a super fast time here for Duncan Ward, but we've definitely seen some worse times here. Let's see what he gets across the start-finish line. Holding 193 out of turn 4, that's not necessarily a good time. Not a good sign there for Duncan Ward, although not that bad of a lap time. 45.680. That'll put him 18th out of 26, so yeah, like I mentioned before, not the worst time that we've seen.
Especially considering, like I said, his first ever laps in a cup car and puts it 18th on the board right now, ahead of a couple of well-established drivers, including Kareem Wills Calloway, Jacob Lopez, among others. So definitely nothing to scoff at there for the number 9 of Duncan Ward. Good effort there in that checkered flag racing number 9.
Up next for Lumen 500 qualifying is the number 18 car, driven by Zach Dearman, the closer. Last week's winner at Iowa got Ford their first win of the season. And he is one of 3 drivers that are running number tributes to Kyle Busch. His number is stylized after his JGR number 18 that he ran most of his Cup Series races and his 2 championships in. Very nice to see the teams doing that for Kyle, and see if Zach Dearman can put together a good lap right now. His 2 teammates are not that high up on the timesheet. Andrew Kreider is 15th of 26, and Jake Sidney is 22nd. So he's going to need to find some speed relative to his teammates if he wants to put this 18 car up near the front. And down the back straightaway on his warm-up lap. Zach Dearman right now is locked into the race. He's currently 5th in points, so he does not have to worry about going home per se, but like we've mentioned several times before, it helps to have a good starting spot. He's going to go 192 across the line, and that's a pretty good warm-up lap. This is looking like a good lap time here for Zach Dearman if he can hold on. We'll see what the Robin Hood Ford has in store here. Down the back straightaway, 199, 200, 201. Is he going to hit 202? He will. Is he going to get to 203? Not quite. But Zach Dearman is looking pretty sporty in this number 18. Coming around turns 3 and 4. He's going to hold 194. And he is headed home here to the checkered flag. What will his final time be? 45.426. He has broken into the part-timer blockade at the front. He is 4th quickest, fastest of all the full-timers. How about that? Next up on the track is the number 40 of Adrian Wheeler, and the last 2 MRV cars will be going back-to-back here. And Motor Racing Ventures right now 25th and 27th of the 27 cars that have gone out. So a lack of qualifying speed from the whole team up to this point. So that's not a good sign for Adrian Wheeler. But Caleb, that lap time from Zach Dearman was very impressive. He broke into the top 5 there, kind of broke up that top 4 lockout that the part-timers had. That was awesome to see the number 18 go that fast. But as for Adrian Wheeler, I mean, he's at least got to try to do better than his teammates. I mean, the MRV cars have had a severe lack of pace in qualifying so far, so maybe Adrian Wheeler will be able to turn it around for them.
I have to see, but yeah, like you're talking about, the trend saying it's not looking good there for those Motor Racing Ventures cars. Michael Harvin right now still last on the board with a 45.917. Jacob Lopez only 2 spots better with a 45.8. So they need some pace here. We'll see if Adrian Wheeler brought some pace in that number 40 machine, but we'll try and break the trend here so far. What that 40 car has under the hood, but it's already looking like an okay outlap here for that number 40. Dipping down to 189 through turn 4, but not too long. I'll have to see what that 40 car has got in store here.
51.7
51.7.
warm-up lap.
Okay.
That's looking a lot better than the other 2 MRV cars so far. We'll see what he does on the timed lap. He's holding 193 through turns 1 and 2, and he's still holding 193, and now the speed starts to climb just a little bit on exit. Going down the back straightaway, Adrian Wheeler he's kind of had a checkers or wreckers type season. He's had a lot of good runs this season, but just cannot stay consistent to save his life. So, I mean, he's got 3 top 5s, and then his next best finish is 19th, but this is looking like a solid qualifying lap for Adrian Wheeler. Not amazing, but solid, but that's the kind of lap that you want to see from the Motor Racing Ventures cars, considering how slow their first 2 were. 45.675 for Adrian Wheeler. That will put him in between Latanya Gray and Duncan Ward, put him 19th out of 28. Again, not amazing, but it is improvement from the MRV cars.
Yeah, definitely some improvement there from that team, which is definitely nice to see. So good run going there for the number 40 of Adrian Wheeler. Have to see if they can find some more pace in the race, but Motor Racing Ventures still probably going to need a little bit more pace than that. We'll have to see what the next car James Harvin might have in store, but Adrian Wheeler trying to break the trend, but still not looking the best for Motor Racing Ventures, but still a solid lap there on that number 40 machine.
Next car to take the track, the last of the Motor Racing Ventures cars, is James Harvin in the 45, and he's been the most consistent of the MRV cars. Not the best, because Lopez has 3 wins, but he only has 2 finishes outside the top 20, and they were both DNFs at Atlanta and Fontana. Actually, I don't think the Atlanta one was a DNF. I don't think anyone retired from that race, but other than a lackluster run at Atlanta and a crash at Auto Club, he has had a pretty solid and consistent season. That is the Amateur Series champion from a few years ago, Rookie of the Year contender last year. And he was the last one to go out in qualifying last year. He had to try and beat his teammate and brother, older brother, Michael Harvin, who was unable to do so. But Caleb, he's an alumni of your team in the Amateur Series, and are you feeling good about this lap here for James Harvin?
Honestly, he's had a really solid season so far. He's been a bit quiet, but has silently managed to kind of capture top 10 after top 10. He's got a good spot in points coming in, so definitely pretty high hopes here for this 45 of James Harvin. Like we are talking about, it has been the best pace so far for Motor Racing Ventures, but we're trying to turn things up in that number 40 machine, trying to increase the trend just a little bit. So I have to see what Harvin has here during this lap. 189 there through 4. But we'll have to see what this clocks in here at across the line. Gives a pretty good indicator. 51.8. And not the best, not the worst.
If he can keep carrying speed through this lap, he could definitely get that time up. He's looking slower than Wheeler, but better than Lopez and Michael Harvin, so might be splitting them, but we won't know until the time comes in. He's gaining some speed down the back straightaway, 198, 199. He's going to cross 200, and he blips 201 there, going into turn number 3. Looking like a middle of the pack run here for James Harvin. Nothing spectacular. And, Motor Racing Ventures, they've got a lot to work on in the duels because none of their cars look all too quick on pace. Holds 193 going down there. It's a 45.695, which is slower than Wheeler. 21st of the 29 cars. And that's only the second quickest of his teammates, so MRV definitely has a lot to work on. At least their qualifying pace does not look very good.
I have to see if they can improve once we do get to race pace, but at the very least in terms of raw speed, definitely a couple things to iron out over there at Motor Racing Ventures, but Harvin in the 45. Not the worst lap there for that number 45, considering especially where the teammates are. So, to see if he does have any, what he can do once we do get to the duels and the main events, but definitely still some high hopes there for that number 45 team, considering the season that they've had so far.
And here comes the last of the Patriot Racing Inc. cars. It's the number 15 of Nathan Buchanan, another one of your alumni, Caleb. Last year's Amateur Series champion, which he won from the garage at Las Vegas. Very dramatic fashion there for Nathan Buchanan. And we got into an incident at Iowa last week. We kind of forced it 3 wide, and you're going to see those rookie mistakes sometimes, but overall, it's been a solid season for Nathan Buchanan. Currently 13th in points, and he'd be a lot higher had it not been for that D&Q at Fontana. But Patriot Racing cars have looked pretty fast. Fitzmaurice is still on the front row right now, currently 2nd. George Bryan is 6th. Billy Smith right now 23rd, so the 88 lacking a bit of pace here, but Buchanan's got a lot of teammates up there towards the top of the time trial, so Caleb, do you think Nathan's got the speed to get himself up there too?
Definitely think he might, considering the speed we've seen so far. Like I mentioned, from a couple of these Patriot Racing cars, so definitely going to be interesting to see what he can do here in this lap. Number 15 Napa car has had some success here at Daytona IRL, so we'll have to see if he can maybe channel some of that magic here to the Lumen 500. Have to see what he can do here, but already looking like a solid outlap for that number 15, dipping down to 189, but struggling to get his speed up there heading into the trial. So have to see what he can do. 51.931. Not looking the best so far for Buchanan, but we'll see if he can pick it up here.
Yeah, that run off of turn 4 was just not there for the 15. We've seen that really be a killer on a lot of laps here, so it's not looking too great for Nathan Buchanan so far. He is picking up solid speed down the back stretch. It is slowing down, though, as he gets to 200, and only 200 as he gets into turn 3. I say only 200, as if they're not still flying around this place, but Buchanan rounding off turn 4 is going to dip into 192. That's never something you want to see. And he's not getting back up to 193. This is not looking like a very good lap for Nathan Buchanan, unfortunately. 45.794. That is the fourth slowest lap that we've seen, only beating Lopez, Swain, and Michael Harvin. So Buchanan does not have that same qualifying pace that his teammates had, unfortunately.
Bit of a rough quality lap there from the number 15. Definitely some things to work out there for the Cannon before we do get to the duels and the main event. Have to see if they can't rectify some of the things under the hood of the number 15, but definitely not what they wanted here in qualifying, that's for certain.
Next up is the last of the Hudson Motorsports Fords. It's the number 81 car of Jack Gino, the inaugural champion of the Lumen Stock Car Invitational back in 2023. He was driving for Diamond Motorsports. Has not been the best season for Gino so far. He currently sits 22nd in the points, but he's been lower than that for most of the year. And we're sitting the lowest of the Hudson Motorsports cars as well. Pacino has had a couple of decent results recently, a 9th and a 12th in the last two races, so starting to turn that momentum around into a positive direction, and a good qualifying run could definitely do that. His teammate Zach Dearman currently sits 4th on the timesheet, but the Hudson Motorsports cars are kind of all over the timesheet on every kind of area of it. Andrew Kreider's near the middle, Jake Sidney's near the bottom, so I don't think there's really much telling of what this 81 car can do. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Have to wait and see what this 81 car has in store. Like you mentioned, it's kind of been all over the place so far here in qualifying for these Hudson Motorsports cars. So see what Jack Gino can do, although it's looking like a really solid outlap here from that number 81. Don't think that dipped below 189 there to turn 4 at all. 51.6, so
that's pretty
been on
solid.
the upside here for this 81 so far.
I don't know if that's quite up to where Zach Dearman was, but he's not too far off. 194, 195. That's pretty early
he's
for
still increasing
195.
speed.
Yeah, so I think this is looking pretty good for Jack
goodness.
Gino. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he could.
200.
He could compete with Zach Dearman. We'll see.
202.
202. Is he going to get to 203? No. Coming off turn 4. This is looking pretty good for our Season 1 champion, Jack Gino. See that momentum coming down through turn number 4. He's holding 194 down the tri-oval. 45.422. He beat Zach Dearman.
Wow.
P4 for Jack Gino. That was an impressive run out of the 81 car.
What a lap out of a former champion there in Jack Gino. Just barely edging out there his teammate Zach Dearman, and just barely one 1,000th of a second behind the number 78 JC Kreider, so almost got third there with that lap, but a fantastic effort there by that Hudson Motorsports driver. Looking for a bit of a turnaround, and maybe the Lumen 500 might just be the race to do it.
And the last car out in group number 2 will be Lakin Herndon in the number 39. It's been a while since we've seen a Columbia Motorsports car out there, but the two ones that have gone are right next to each other in 13th and 14th out of our 31 qualifiers. So towards the middle of the pack, but we know the Toyotas have speed. There's a Toyota currently sitting on pole, Paula Sasikwa still with the 45.263. She is still a whole 10th of a mile hour up on the second place car, but Lakin Herndon tied with a Kia Tajima in points. Kind of been struggling this season, and he struggled a little bit last year. He got a lot of top 10s, but he never really had race-winning pace, and it's been unusual to see Lakin Herndon go winless throughout the season, but it's been trickling over into this year as well, as he has one top 5, which is also his only top 10 on the year, but he is one of the most consistent drivers that we have. On his bad days, they're usually not that bad. We'll see if that reflects in the timesheets here at Daytona.
We'll just have to see what this number 39 car can do. Like you said, it's not been the best, but it's still been a pretty consistent season for this number 39. So it'll be interesting to see what Herndon can do here in qualifying. The Toyotas, just as a whole, has honestly seemed pretty quick. So we'll have to see what that 39 has got under the hood here. Take time in here coming across the line in that number 39. It'd be a 51.6, so
That's pretty solid.
very solid outlap there for the number 39.
194 through turn 1. He's looking pretty close to where his teammates were as he starts to gain speed, although not quite as fast as we've seen off that corner. Still tracking pretty solid, though, Lakin Herndon is, and gets to 202 going into turn 3 just for a moment. He just brushed it. So again, looking like a solid lap time. If you're hitting 202 in turn 3, you're doing something right. And Herndon's going to maintain 194 going down towards the start-finish line. It'll be a 45.489.
489.
That's a 7th place run. And much like how we've described Lakin Herndon being one of the most consistent drivers in the field, that was a very consistent lap for that 39 car. He is now the fastest of the Columbia Motorsports cars.
And that was a really solid lap there out of that 39. Honestly, solid might be doing that a bit of a disservice. Great lap there for Lakin Herndon in the number 39, continuing to show that the Toyotas are looking pretty fast so far here in qualifying. So we got a couple more coming up here in Group 3, so we'll see how that ends up shaking out. But definitely an interesting way to close out Group 2 here with a great lap out of the 39 of Lakin Herndon.
And to begin group number 3, we've got the Action Racing number 5, driven by Cassidy Jones, the second of the 3 cars that have changed their number style to tribute Kyle Busch. This one, of course, for his time at Hendrick Motorsports between 2005 and 2007. And we've also got a new commentator in the booth for this final stint. It's Rashi Mahendra. Rashi, this is the first time that you've called single car quali here for the Lumen 500, and we've seen a lot transpire over the first 2 groups. What are the takeaways that you have from what we've seen so far, and how are you expecting this last part to play out?
Yeah, thank you for having me on here. It's been interesting seeing the track evolution here. Obviously, with me going last of the 3 in the last of the 3 segments, I know a little bit more what to expect here, and we're definitely seeing those lap times compared to last year's qualifying times are way down compared to where last year I think we would have seen 45 6s and 7s as bad lap times. Now they're actually fairly decent. We're seeing those. Those are midfield qualifying times right now. When those lap times in the upper half of the 45s, the 0 through 5 range, the first half second, those are really rare to come by. So if you can get a 45.5, I think that's going to be a really good lap here.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those drivers looking for that is Cassidy Jones. This is her first attempt to make the Lumen 500. She's the youngest driver in the field, although that
172,
warm-up
yeah,
lap
that's again a
is
slow
not looking good.
Yeah, we've seen some of these warm-up laps in the 172s. They're not usually pretty quick, and also struggling in the corners. Only 193 out of turn 2 here.
Yeah, this team struggled with Ellie Adams last year, failed to make the field, did not have much pace whatsoever, and doesn't look like that has changed here with Cassidy Jones. She's going to need... Yeah, capping out at 198 is really bad. That's not good for Cassidy Jones. She's had some good runs. She's had some good runs in the Cup cars. She's done good in the Amateur Series, but she's got a uphill battle here. 45.855. She did beat a couple of them, but only 31st out of 33 cars. So not a great run for the 5 car.
Yeah, right down in the bottom of the pecking order right now, just barely within the 196s, I think. Still ahead of the two Chevrolets that have run the 20 and the 55. So again, off to a bit of a slow start here with the 5. A bit of a surprise given how good Cassidy Jones is, oftentimes, at least in race pace, on these bigger tracks, but maybe that's what the duels are going to be for.
And next up, we've got the last of the Columbia Motorsports cars. It's the number 29 of JB Chanot, the 2023 winner of the Lumen 500, and that was her only career win up until she won at COTA earlier this year to nab win number 2, ending a long winless drought JB Chanel has been off to another one of her token good starts. She's 10th in points right now, but she's looking to have a season that does not collapse towards the end, which has been the case in each of her first 3 seasons in LSCI. All of her Columbia Motorsports teammates are inside the top 15 on the timesheet. We just saw Laken Herndon go a couple of cars ago, and he put it in 7th. Almeida Kim and Akia Tajima, who we thought had pretty slow lap times, are actually 14th and 15th. So I guess we kind of overestimated how fast the cars would be going. But the Columbia cars are definitely looking pretty sporty right now, having those Toyota engines in them. Do you think JB Chanot can maybe replicate the speed of her teammates?
We'll see what happens here with the Columbia cars, but they've been fairly consistent on pace. As Toyota with Toyotas as a whole, to be fair, obviously you have Sasika still holding steady up there at the very top of the standings, but Kate Summers obviously just right behind those two, and Vinny Schultz as well in the top 10. Lots of cars
Oh my
in the
goodness.
Toyota pack.
She has a
170, that is
lot
a
of
very
speed.
fast, very
Well,
fast.
the warm-up lap wasn't all that fast, but that run that she got off at turn 4 was tremendous. She's going 196. The
Yeah,
speed
very
is
good entry
scrubbing
into
off.
turn 1.
I don't think we've seen them hit 197 or 196 going off the corner. JB Chanot
Car
is looking like
definitely
she's got
good.
a pretty good lap time going. She is losing some pace down on this end of the track. Only hit 200 for a little bit, but I think that good first half of the lap time will be more than enough to get her a solid time by the end of it.
Yeah, it looks like she picked up a really good tailwind and also exited very quick, 195 right off the bat.
196. She's getting great runs off of turn 4, 45,
And what a lap there.
381, and she just missed the front row. She'll be in 3rd.
And yet
Missed
another
it by
good lap by
less
the Columbia cars.
missed it by less than 100th of a second. So the front row is still the 12 and the 80, but JB Chanot gave Fitzmaurice a little bit of a scare there.
Yeah, that must have been a very good tailwind for the 29 because they were very quick on the front stretch, both on entry into turn 1 and exit off of 4.
And now we've got the second checkered flag racing car out on the track. It's the number 10 of Simon Lawrenson, and he knows how to get it done at these kinds of racetracks. He's won a duel before, and he's also won at Talladega before as a part-time driver. This is his first full-time season in the Cup Series. 24th in points doesn't seem too remarkable, but considering he's driving a checkered flag racing car, that's not too bad for your rookie season. Let's see if maybe this 10's got some good qualifying pace, and they've got a capable driver behind the wheels, so we'll see if this Xfinity Ford can maybe beat Duncan Ward, who's kind of on the opposite end of the experience on these big tracks. As that was Duncan Ward's first couple laps in an LCI car, but Lawrenson's had plenty of experience here at Daytona.
Yeah, Lawrenson's fairly adept at these super speedway races already. Has that win and a duel to prove to kind of show for it. We'll see how that translates to in qualifying trim, of course. Qualifying often a very different beast than racing itself on these big tracks.
Lawrenson has attempted the Lumen 500 twice before, both with Connie Twins Motorsports. Of course, like we mentioned, he won his duel back in 2023, and in 2024 he failed to qualify. Did not attempt last year, but we'll see if Lawrenson can make the show here this year. 191 across the line. The warm-up lap is a 51.7, which is definitely trending in the right direction for Simon Lawrenson. Getting up to 194 for just a moment, and then back up to 194 for a little bit more. Kind of hovering between 193 and 194 through the corners.
This is more standard of this is more kind of a standard lap as you'll see here at this track. As we see her down the backstretch, he is going to hit 200. We'll see if he can get to 201 and 202. Not quite 202, but still at 200.
Yeah, this is looking like a pretty solid lap here for Simon Lawrenson.
Yeah, just got to maintain the pace out of turn 4 here. 193. Seems like it's going to be a fine lap.
Not
Yeah, didn't
really
really.
gaining much down there, but a 45.594 will put him 17th out of 35 cars. That would put him right in the middle of the field.
Just ahead, a few spots ahead of Ward, I'm pretty sure. Quite a few actually, because that part of the field is fairly compressed. Yeah, a lot of times in the 45.5 and 45.6s.
And the final of the Pacific Racing cars is now on the track. This is the 92 car driven by Adrienne Fearson, still looking for her first career win. She has attempted this race every single year, has made the race every single year, even as a part timer like she is this year. Had a fifth place qualifying run in single car qualifying, and that's ultimately what got her into the race last year when she was driving for NH Motorsports. But this year, she does not have to worry about timing her way into the field. She is locked in on owner points. This rotational 92 car has been very solid, and Adrienne Fearson has been a major contributor to that in her 3 races so far. She has finished in the top 10 in all 3 of them, a 6th at Atlanta, a 4th at Auto Club, and a 9th at Kansas. So Fearson has been very good in her limited starts this season. I mean, you know that she's going to be chasing that win for sure. We'll see if she can maybe get up to where Paula Sasiqua is. I feel like that's going to be a very tall task at this rate, but we'll see. I mean, they're out of the same shop, so it could happen.
Yeah, and we just had another Toyota enter the top 3 with JB Chanot in the 29. As a whole, those Toyotas again look very consistently fast. We'll see what the 92 can do here. 191 off of turn 4 on the warm-up
Holding
lap.
191.
Ooh, gaining a bit, 192. Maybe 193 across the line, not quite.
51.5 as her warm-up lap. That's a pretty good sign for Adrienne Fearson.
195 entering turn 1, good speed into the corner as well.
It's not looking like she's having like the same jaw-dropping speed that the 29 had, but she's being very consistent around this lap. She's going to hit 200 right there. 201.
201.
202. Is she going to get to 203?
Not quite.
But this is
But can
looking
she
like
hold
it
this?
has a chance
Can
at
she
the
hold the
front
speed
row.
out of 4 here? Here we go. This is going to be the crucial part. 194 stays at 194. Very good speed here. Can she gain an extra mile an hour and across the line?
45.3, 64, and she's on the front row. Adrienne Fearson has made it a Pacific Racing lockout.
And these Toyotas just keep showing up. 4 Toyotas now in the 3 Toyotas in the top 4, I should say. And 2 of them being the front row, being the Pacific cars locking out the front row. What a qualifying session it has been for these cars and the manufacturer as a whole.
Absolutely outstanding for the part-time Pacific drivers. First and second on the timesheet. Let's see if they can hold on to it. They just bumped Isabella Fitzmaurice. So, but I mean, even for Fitzmaurice, that's still a great effort if she fails to advance through the duels. If she maybe gets caught up in something, but Sasiqua and Fearson, first and second, the Pacific cars have come out to play tonight. Next up on the track, we've got the number 1 of Tim Berry, your defending LSCI champion. And he has got quite the hill to climb this season. He has been hit with he's been hit with the championship hangover, I think, harder than we've ever seen. He is currently 32nd in the points. Paul Sasiq was ahead of him in points, and Sasiq was only run 3 races. So Tim Berry definitely going to try and turn this around here in the Lumen 500. Statistically, has been pretty solid in this race. I believe he got a top 5 here last year. But good news for Tim Berry is he can fall back on that past champions provisional if he needs it. So he is locked into the field no matter what happens, which for a car that's 32nd in owner points is definitely a fallback that you want to have.
Yeah, fairly invaluable there to have that to fall back on, especially in this race with a lot of entries. But yeah, the last time I was here in the booth calling things, Tim Berry was off of that win at Calder Park in the preseason race. Since then, it has been a nightmare of a season for this one team. We'll see what kind of effort they can bring in here to kind of start turning that season around.
Yeah, it's been just about everything you can think of for Tim Berry. Lack of pace, getting involved in accidents, hitting the wall. It's been everything but the kitchen sink thrown at Tim Berry here. First this first lap here is not looking particularly notable, but it's not looking terrible. But
It's
he's only
decent.
getting 190. He's only getting 193 going through 1 and 2, so he's not going to be a threat for the pole or anything. He is starting to gain some speed coming out of 2, so we'll see if he can make up some of that time.
Yeah, gaining a bit of speed fairly quickly here in the backstretch. Gonna hit 200 easily. Probably
201.
201. Yeah, not quite 202, I don't think. But again, crucially, he needs to keep that pace up in the corners.
His teammates right now, Corbin Taps is in 20th, and Laurie Jackson's in 12th. So we'll see where Barry ends up relative to them. Coming across the line, it's a 45.623. He'll be just ahead of Corbin Taps in P20 out of 37.
Yeah, looks like pretty consistent with the rest of the team there. Kind of right down the middle of the timesheets.
And the next driver up is Ashley Blake, co-owner of Blake Everett Motorsports. And she's the second of the Blake Everett cars to go out. The only one that's qualified so far is Bridget Brousseau, but she put it in the top 10, P8 in that 52 car. See if Ashley Blake has that same sort of speed. It's been a pretty uneventful season so far for Ashley Blake, 28th in points, but honestly, she has been doing a little bit better than she was last year. Last year, she had a complete disaster of a season, and even the year before that was not that great, but even though she's down in 28th in points, she's been putting together some solid, consistent, inside the top 20 runs, and no top 10s, though, so not really that much speed from the 36, but she's been getting some solid results, and we'll see if maybe she can match Bridget Brousseau's fast time from earlier.
Yeah, we know at least one of the Blake Everett cars has that speed in them, but we've seen in this qualifying session, looks like a lot of the part-time teams are bringing their best qualifying setups with them. And of course, this being now we're going to have the full-time cars run. We'll see if those other two cars are going to have the same pace to match Brousseau's time here.
Yeah, that has been the trend. It seems like a lot of the part-timers have been in full qualifying trim, potentially, and that's how they keep ending up at the top of the charts. But Ashley Blake hasn't won since season 2 at Rockingham. 51.6, though, is looking pretty good for a warm-up
yeah.
lap. So it looks like 36 has brought the speed as well. If she can keep it going. Just barely tapped 194 or 195, I think, going through turn number 1, and now back up to 195 and gaining speed off of turn 2. Got a pretty good launch out of that corner. This is looking like
she's building up speed really
here
quickly. Yeah,
Ashley Blake up to
202
for quite
corner
a bit
speed is going to be
heading into
important
turn
here.
3. This is looking not too far off of Brousseau's time for Ashley Blake. If she can keep that speed, does not dip to
194 off of 4. That's good.
Yeah, this is looking pretty good for Ashley Blake. We'll see what the time is across the line. 45.410.
5.4. That's very good.
Fifth. P5 for Ashley Blake. She ran even faster than Brousseau.
That's going to knock the 78 of JC Kreider off of the top 5.
I'll tell you what, the Fords have kind of showed up here recently. We got one in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah. The Toyotas have kind of that top-end pace, but the Fords are right behind them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Izzy Fitzmaurice just kind of holding up the Chevrolets, I think, all by herself.
Next up on the track is the number 33 Double Eagle Racing Ford, driven by Riley Pearson. This is the team that has pulled off miracle after miracle when Cheryl Simmons was driving their cars. But Simmons retired from driving at the end of the year. They picked up the young driver, Riley Pearson. And Riley Pearson has not made a race with this team yet. 3 attempts in her career, and all 3 of them DNQs. They tried to make the race with Coda with Kaylee Maxwell, but also failed to qualify. So, got to think a lot on the line for this team. Trying to pull off another miracle to get into the show. Maybe not going to have the best speed out of the draft, but his car has performed some miracles before in the draft. Will Riley Pearson be able to pull off another?
Yeah, it's been an uphill climb for this Double Eagle team pretty much their entire existence, but this year especially, it has been tough for them. Still haven't made a race, neither team nor driver here. But the Lumen 500, with the Lumen 500 and the duels, anything can happen in those races.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a Ford, and we've just seen that we have a lot of Fords up towards the top. This is a part-time car. We've seen a lot of part-time cars up at the front. Maybe they've got full qualifying trim on this car. They also get some equipment from Blake Everett Motorsports, and they've got both their cars in the top 10 right now. And this is not looking like too bad of a warm-up lap for the 33. 51.8 is not terrible, so we'll see if Pearson can find some more speed here on this time lap.
Yeah, didn't really gain much speed entering turn one though, kind of maintaining 193. It looks like through the entirety of 1 and 2, ticked it up to 195 on exit, but picking up pace on the backstretch.
Yeah, up to 200. Probably going to get to 201, but not much further than that. This is not looking like too flashy of a lap, but honestly, for their standards and their strugglings for qualifying, this is absolutely outstanding for this 33 car. Let's see what the time is across the line. 193 as they take the checkered flag. 45.662. That's going to put her 26th out of 39. So, I mean, she beat about 12 cars. So that was a pretty solid qualifying run for Double Eagle Racing and Riley Pearson.
Yeah, considering that car oftentimes in qualifying has been pegged down to the bottom of the timesheets, that's an achievement. That's a win for them, I think. Just being in right down in the middle of the pack. Still gonna come down to the duels, of course, but that car does at least have some pace in them, I think. Qualified ahead of Duncan Ward. What else can I say?
Well, if you've been wondering where all the Hondas are, there are 4 of them in the final 8 spots, including a run of 3 in a row. And the first of them is going to be Darren Walker in this number 8 car, the last of the cars running number tributes to Kyle Busch. This one, of course, being the number 8 that he drove at Richard Childress Racing for the last few years of his career. Darren Walker has had a tough outing this year. He is 29th in points. Seems like he has been constantly getting involved in stuff. And he's had seasons like this before where he's just had no luck at all. And but it has not been to this extent to where he might miss the field if he doesn't qualify good in this race. So Darren Walker, one of the veterans of the series, 5 wins to his name, has really got to step it up here today and turn the season around.
Yeah, this is not a position you'd expect to find Darren Walker or this team in general in, I think, kind of being a fringe go or go home car almost and entering the Lumen 500. But that's kind of where they are based on how just all the bad luck they've had. And knowing that bad luck, something might very well just happen in the duels as well. But focusing on the qualifying lap time now, 190 off of 4, decent enough pace.
Darren Walker's finished second in the Lumen 500 twice, including last year when he finished second to Jake Sidney. 51.8 for the warm-up lap. Not especially amazing, but he is going to bounce between 193 and 194 going through 1 and 2. He can pick up some speed down the back. This could gain him a bit of time and get him a little higher up the sheet, but Walker, we know he's good at this racetrack. He's always a threat to win this race, but he just has not gotten it done yet. He's going to hold 201 for a very long time through turn number 3. This is looking like about a middle of the pack time for Darren Walker in this 8 car. His teammate Kevin DuPont has already gone out and is 14th on the sheet. Haley Taps is 24th. And Darren Walker will have a 45.594, which will tie him with Simon Lawrenson. And believe it or not, Simon Lawrenson is actually going to win the tiebreaker based off of points.
Yeah, that's going to be still very solid in the top 20 for the 8 team there. So definitely have some pace in that Honda. Honda. We don't really have that many Hondas to go with right now. So
And the last of the Walker Brothers racing cars going out right after her teammate, Charlie McCarron in the number 85. And she has been carrying the torch for this team this year. However, the last 3 weeks have not gone well for not only the entire team, but Charlie McCarron as well. She's dropped all the way down to 19th in the point standings after a rough 3 races. But McCarron sat on the front row here last year. So we know Walker Brothers Racing has some good qualifying pace in them. This year they've been kind of around the middle. Kevin DuPont is the highest of them in 14th. Darren Walker just turned the 20th fastest time. And Haley Taps, their one-off entry, is 25th. So I guess you'd expect McCarron to be a little bit faster than her teammates. But at least the goal will probably be on par with the 98, and the 96. And like you mentioned at the end of Walker's run, we have not seen too many Hondas go out, so we don't have that good of an idea of their pace, but it seems like they're trending towards the middle of the pack. So we'll see if McCarron can maybe break that and put her car a little bit higher up than that.
yeah, definitely. These Hondas have been kind of right down the middle of the timesheets here. You mentioned all the Walker Brothers racing cars, and of course we've had the one diamond car that's run Bellinger's 35th speed-wise as well. So looks like the Hondas don't quite have the top end speed here, but Charlie McCarron, I think, speed-wise, been one of the faster Hondas. So see what she can do here.
It was not a good warm-up lap, 51.9. Not what you want to see out of Charlie McCarron, especially after having sat on the front row last year. But then again, our pole sitter from last year is still last on the timesheet. So clearly, how fast you went last year doesn't really matter. McCarron trying to pick up speed on the backstretch, not gaining a ton of speed really fast. She is going to get to 201 though. Not for very long, so this isn't looking too great of a lap for Charlie McCarron. She'll probably be a little bit closer to where Haley Taps is compared to most of her other teammates. Comes off the final
I think
corner
so
at
as well, yeah.
193. And across the start-finish line will be a 45 at 670. So just behind
That-
Haley Taps. She'll
yeah,
be
that'll be the
28.
slowest of the Walker Brothers cars, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be 28 out of the 41 qualifiers. So, like you mentioned, slowest of the Walker Brothers cars. Just behind Haley Taps. Next up, we've got the 58 of Joanna Clark, who is actually the highest up Honda in points right now, currently 15th in the standings, was actually holding on to a wildcard spot before getting involved in an incident at Iowa and not having the caution called for it. So, Joanna Clark definitely in a different position this year than she was last year. Last year, she was kind of unproven, unknown. And we pointed out her roughly 25th place spot points and said, hey, that's pretty solid for the team that she's on. Well, she's bettered that by 10 positions as of right now and gotten 2 wins in that time as well. And last year, Clark was the very first one to qualify and ended up being one of the slowest. Her teammate, Tamarin Bellinger, is currently 36th out of 41, so that doesn't bode well for the speed, but we know that Clark can get more out of her car than maybe most other drivers can, so we'll see if she can maybe squeeze some more speed out of it.
Yeah, it's been a story of two teams at Diamond Motorsports. We've talked about the struggles that the 65 team has had endlessly now, but the 58 has basically had the opposite of that. They've been up there fighting for these fighting in kind of the top half of the points. Definitely uh definitely been very quick. Of course, who can forget the win that Joanna Clark had last year at Watkins Glen? That's another one of the races that I called. As she comes across the line here to complete her warm-up lap, 194 across the line.
She's carrying some good speed out of the tri-oval, going to get to 196 going into turn number 1. And kind of like JB Chanel, the warm-up lap doesn't look too spectacular, but she got such a good tailwind off of turn 4. And that's going to help her a lot in this time. Only 194 off the exit of turn 2 and continuing to climb down the back straightaway. Not as fast going into the corner. This is looking a lot like JB Chanel or George Bryan's lap where they weren't too fast through turn 3, but they made up for it at just about every other spot on the track. See what Clark can do off the corner. Holding 194, and she's going to gain some time coming down the tri-oval. We'll see what the time is for the 58. 45.518. That is a pretty good lap time. That makes her the fastest Honda, just ahead of Kevin DuPont. She will be 14th on the grid.
Yeah, that's another one of those laps where there's a strong tailwind into turn 1 and out of turn 4. Of course, that's going to slow you down into on the backstretch. We saw that with the 58 here. Only hit 199 on the backstretch, but that's not going to matter as much if you have that big run on the other side of the track.
Yeah, just kind of a take and give kind of thing. And we've seen the drivers that have gotten that tailwind have really benefited from it and gotten some pretty good lap times down. Next up on the track is the number 42 of Lulu Connie. And her struggles at this race have been pretty well documented. She has never made a Lumen 500. She was in the Daytona race in season 1, but that was before the Lumen 500 was moved to LSCI. And every single other time since, she has DNQ'd. She has tried every year. She has driven for a couple of different teams this year, most notably Pacific Racing. She got a top 10 at Rockingham. She also made a start for Miller Motorsports at Phoenix. So this is the third different team that she's driven for this year, and this is the first time that she's driven for her own team. Teammates with Karina Willis-Callaway, of course, the recently engaged couple. And Karina is currently 33rd out of 42 cars on the timesheet, so Lulu's going to try to at least do better than that.
Yeah, it appears that the speed given to the Toyotas hasn't really extended to the Connie twins cars just yet. We'll see if the 42 can wrangle up some of that speed that we've seen from the Pacific and the Diamond cars here, or the Columbia cars, I should say, not the Diamond ones. My bad there.
Yeah, Lulu Connie just hoping to make the race here in this 42 car. Again, it's been a struggle for her, but she still has some pace every now and again when she's driving other cars, but Masters in Toyota looking very much like Del McCowart's paint scheme, and that warm-up lap is in the 52, so that's not a good sign for Lulu Connie.
Yeah, hit 189 on the exit of 4 there. We've not seen many cars do that, and when they do, they're usually some of the slower cars that have on these timesheets.
Coming down the back straightaway, 197, 198, 199, at least looking faster than Cassidy Jones, so I don't think she's going to be the slowest Toyota. She did hit 201 for just a split second going into the corner. This lap time is looking pretty similar, maybe slightly slower than what Karina ran. Coming off of turn number 4, Lulu Connie will come across the start-finish line, and it will be a 45.717. So that will be just behind Karina
Right
Willis
behind,
Callaway. 34th out of 43 cars.
Looks like the Connie twins cars are pretty much identical speed-wise. Really couldn't separate them anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're towards the bottom of the timesheet, though, so they're both going to have to do some work in the duels because even the 41 is way down there in the owner points, and this is the first race the 42 has attempted this year, so it has no owner points. So both of them are going to have to hurry in the duels. And next up on the racetrack, we got the number 64 Miller Motorsports entry. I believe this is the only team in the field that is entering their first Lumen 500 as an organization. They've got Lucas Forrester, who is entering his first Lumen 500 as a driver. And this driver and team pair has shown up a couple of times in the early season races. Rockingham, Forrester actually did a good job qualifying that car. Unfortunately, the race didn't go that well. They had Lulu Connie in the car at Phoenix, like we mentioned. Connie, of course, going right before them. And then Lucas Forster failed to qualify at Kansas. So this is their 4th attempt of the year. Startup operation. Of course, you note the lack of sponsorship on the hood and the quarter panels. So very low budget team here. So not expecting the fastest of laps from them, but who knows? Maybe they've got it in full quali trim like some of the other part-time cars have. And Lucas Forster's a pretty good qualifier. He's also a solid super speedway racer, so they have a solid driver in there. It's just a matter of if the equipment can get them where they want to be.
Yeah, we've already seen quite a few of the smaller organizations in this group already. We've seen the 33 go and set a pretty respectable time. The 42 came in just before, of course, and ran with her teammate as well. We'll see what the
Ooh,
64 can do here. Ooh, still one
188.
pegs to 188. Yeah, will they hit 190 before the start finish line here? No.
52.2. I'm pretty sure that is the slowest warm-up lap that we've seen so far. So, I mean,
Yeah, not
holding
quite right on the
191
setup, I
around
don't
the
think.
corners.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
quite right
but
on the setup, I don't think. No, not really able
yeah, this
to get any pace. We'll see what they can do on the backstretch here. But there's
climbing
good.
a
This
little
is a
bit,
real
but
uphill climb for them.
yeah, but hey, you know what? The duels, anything can happen as long as you're still in the race. Big crash happens, takes out about 10 cars, all of a sudden you're in a transfer spot, so long shots can happen. Anything can happen once you get to the duels, and I'm sure that's what this team is banking on. Weren't really thinking they'd have that much. Oh my goodness. 46.111. That is by far the slowest time that we've seen out of Forrester. So yeah, this team is
That
hoping that they can work some miracles in the duel.
Yeah, slowest by 2/10 there. Definitely got a lot of work to do, but I'm sure the team were expecting just that. And yeah, with the duels coming up, of course, lots of things can still happen. Everything can change in the blink of an eye here at Daytona.
They were
And
slowest by almost a full mile per hour, 195.181 compared to Michael Harvin's 196.006. So yeah, this team, again, like we said, anything can happen in the duels. Anybody's got a shot once it comes to the qualifying races. Next on the track, the last of the Blake Everett Motorsports cars, the 57 of Shauna Everett, who was a bit of a shocking D&Q last year. She actually put up a really good qualifying effort, but she missed out on the duel. She wasn't high enough in owner points to get an owner point spot, and she failed to make the race. But this year she shouldn't have to worry about that. She's 11th in points, and also her two teammates, Ashley Blake and Bridget Brousseau, are both still in the top 10, 5th and ninth on the timesheet. So I'd assume we'd expect some similar speed out of Everett. She has been the best of the Blake Everett Motorsports cars by a decent sized margin.
yeah, the Blake Everett Motorsport cars have been pretty solid at least. In qualifying, we've seen what Brousseau and Ashley Blake can do, of course, and even the 33, the double eagle car that's getting some help from this team as well, qualified fairly respectably. So looks like this team has some qualifying pace in them, but we'll just have to see whether or not Everett can back that up. But lots of teams, I think, have been very consistent with their cars.
Yeah, absolutely. As Everett rounds turn 4 on her warm up lap, she got down to 189 a little bit. That does not inspire a lot of confidence, but it's usually not been a good sign. However, she's carrying a lot of speed through the trioval, so maybe it might not be that bad. Pretty slow warm up lap, but again, carrying a lot of speed. 196 for just a brief moment into turn number 1. I think she caught that tailwind again off of turn 4. This might be a solid lap, even despite that. Holding
Yeah, maybe.
194 and getting up to speed down the back straightaway. See if she can get to 200 here.
Yeah, she's not picking up the pace as much here, which I think signifies that tailwind kind of off
Yeah,
of the front stretch.
that has tracked with a lot of the other drivers like the 3 and the 29 that have had similar looking lap times, but this should still be a solid effort for Shauna Everett here. 195 might get 196 across the line, not quite, but a
624.
45.624 that will split the McPicky cars of Barry and Taps in 24th. So not up there with her teammates, but also not too terrible. Right around the midfield for the 57.
Yeah, just I think that car was just a little bit more upset in the turns there. Didn't wasn't able to kind of maintain the or pick up the tailwind just as well as the some of the other cars that ran with that wind configuration.
Only 3 cars to go here in Lumen 500 qualifying. Paula Sasiqua still has the pole with a 45.263. She's still a tenth of a second over her teammate Adrienne Fusen in second. Isabella Fitzmaurice, JB Cheneau, and Ashley Blake, currently the top 5. Out on the track right now is JT Boyd, teammate to Holly Martin in the NH Motorsports number 77 car. And he's been pretty even with Holly Martin all season long, which is pretty unusual for NH Motorsports because usually the 77 car is top 15 in points and the 27 is outside the top 30, but they're both right around the middle of the point standings, 21st and 22nd. Holly Martin currently has the 37th fastest time out of 45, so that does not bode well for GT Boyd. But Boyd is known for getting a little bit more out of his race car, so we'll see if Boyd can top what Holly Martin turned, which was a 45.737.
Yeah, usually with JT Boyd, I think we're more or less expect him to be kind of in that top 15 points battle. Hasn't been the case here this season, but still early days, and maybe NH are just kind of adjusting a little bit to kind of having more of a balance with their team, of course. Holly Martin qualified already, was
Oh,
37th, so not particularly fast. Doesn't
did
look
you see that?
this
188
Yeah.
off of turn 4.
I don't think this doesn't look promising for the 77 either, so maybe the NH cars also missed on their setup here.
He did carry more speed off of turn 4 than the 64 did a couple cars ago, but that was not looking good there for a moment, and he's holding 192 around turns 1 and 2. I think you're right. I think the NH cars have not quite gotten the qualifying setup here, as JT Boyd is looking like he's getting one of the slower lap times in this number 77. He might not even beat the 27. 199. He's
We'll hit
just
at least 200.
barely
Just
gonna
though.
get 200.
Ticked right down immediately and is already dropping off.
Yeah, not a lot
Yeah,
of pace.
192. This is not going to be a particularly fast time. We'll see if it's any faster than the 27s.
And it is
And
not.
the answer is no. Resounding no.
45.979. He only beat Lucas Forrester. That is a quite pathetic qualifying run out of JT Boyd. Maybe
And
they've got it. Maybe they've got it set up for the race, though. We'll see.
Yeah, but that will by far make Boyd the slowest Toyota as well. A full 10th off of Cassidy Jones in the 5 car, which we already thought was quite a slow lap there.
Yeah, absolutely. NH Motorsports, they've got some work to do going into the duels. And again, with how we've seen these part-time cars, 21st, 22nd, and owner points, not guaranteed safe in the race. So they got to make sure they get some good results.
Typically, I wouldn't be too worried about that, but with all these part-timers running really well, you would think you'd be sweating it out a bit if you're in that midfield pack and points. So, yeah, definitely concerning right now.
2 cars left here at Daytona, and if Tyler Landry cannot nab the pole here, then Paula Sasikwa will be guaranteed a starting spot in the Lumen 500, which is absolutely huge for her, considering that 12 car did not have much owner points and was go or go home. But of course, Paula Sasikwa is looking at pole time right now. She's still a full 10th ahead of Adrienne Pearson. But Tyler Landry in this 66 car, we know that he's quick. He's one of the fastest drivers that we've got. He is locked into the race on owner points, so he can afford to just go for the pole here. But it's going to be a hard pole to get. Interesting, Rasha pointed out to me during the intermission, 3 of McPickey's cars are actually guaranteed spots in the race. The only one that isn't is Lori Jackson in the 6. And I find it's no coincidence that so far she's the fastest of the McPickey cars, currently sitting 13th on the timesheet, while Barry and Taps are 23rd and 25th. See if Landry is maybe closer to their time or more closer to Lori Jackson's time.
Yeah, at the very least, it seems like the McPickey cars have a fairly high floor for their performance, obviously, with those 2 cars. The 2 cars, I should say the ones that are locked in, guaranteed it to make the race, running fairly decent lap times, if on spectacular ones. Landry here hitting 192 on the start-finish line, 51.698. Yeah,
looks
that's
like
decent.
He's a little bit. I'd say he's a little bit closer to Jackson in pace right now, but we'll see. Holding 194 around turns 1 and 2, and starts gaining speed while still in turn 2, but not very rapidly. Once he gets onto that straightaway, the speed climbs up 200
Fairly quick on the
201.
backstretch.
Will he get to 202? He will.
Yes,
This might be a
yes.
pretty good lap for Tyler Landry in that 66 car. Don't think it's going to compete for pole. I think Paul Sasiqua's front row start is safe, but
I
still
think possibly a
possibly a
top
good.
15 time, I think.
Yeah, looking pretty good here for Tyler Landry as he comes across the start finish line. 45.439. That is a 10th place time for Tyler Landry.
That will make him the fastest of the McPicky cars,
It
pulling
will.
ahead of Laurie Jackson's time, yeah.
He is the third fastest of the cars that are already locked into the race. He's behind the 18 and the 92, but that will guarantee Paula Sasiqua's number 12 will be racing in the Lumen 500. She will be starting on the front row, but will she win the pole? She's got one car to wait through before she knows that for sure.
And I should also mention that Landry's now the second fastest Chevy to go after the 80 of Fitzmaurice.
And our final qualifier, the last line of defense from Paula Sasiqua and winning the pole for the Lumen 500 is the number 24 GoPro Honda of Cooper Spur, trying to walk it off here at Daytona. But we have not seen a ton of speed from the Hondas up to this point. The highest up Honda is Joanna Clark in 15th. Granted, only 6 of them have qualified, so they have less of a sample size than the others, but they've been trending towards the middle of the pack, so I wouldn't expect Cooper Spur to compete for the pole, but you never know until you run the laps. So we'll see what Cooper has here as the green flag comes out. See if this 24 car can threaten for the pole, and if he cannot beat Adrian Fearson's time of 45.364, Fearson was already locked into the show on owner points, so that would actually lock the 7th place car in owner points, which it appears I've made a mistake. Tyler Landry is the 7th car in owner points, so he was not locked in before, but if the 24 does not beat the 92, then Landry will be guaranteed his spot in the race.
Yeah, we haven't really seen too much from the Hondas here. As you mentioned, only one car in the top 15 right now, and it's the ever-present Joanna Clark, it seems. But the Walker Brother Racing cars have been kind of middle of the road as well. We'll see if Cooper Spur is closer to there or closer to Joanna Clark's time. 191 across the
I'd say
line.
he's pretty far off of both.
Ooh, yeah, that's not that quick. Under 173 on the warm-up lap.
I think it's safe to say that Paula Sasiqua and Adrian Fearson will be your front row sitters for the Lumen 500. We'll see where Cooper Spur ends up timing in. He is gaining quite a bit of speed down the backstretch, so again, not a pole threat, but he could salvage a solid qualifying run out of it. 200, 201,
201.
and that's about as much as he's going to get. But I feel like, again, he's going to be trending towards the middle of the pack, like most of the Hondas have. Coming off of turn 4, can he carry some speed into the trial to gain a little bit of extra time? Doesn't look like it. He's going to hold 193 all
Just
the way
193,
down.
yeah.
And it'll be a
And that's, yeah,
45.691 to end it off. That is 34th fastest of the 48. And that will mean Paula Sasiqua will be your pole sitter for the Lumen 500. Her teammate Adrian Fearson will start on the front row alongside her. And that will complete a Pacific Racing lockout with not the cars that you would have expected.
Yeah, obviously the 62 and 32 put in decent lap times, but the 12 and 92 being the cars to lead the charge for Pacific is definitely a surprise. But I would think it would be a pleasant surprise given the 12 obviously coming to this race needing a fast lap time to make it. That won't be a worry for them now, and they're locked into the race, so.
Yeah, absolutely. A big break there for Paula Sasiqua being guaranteed her spot in. Fearson was already guaranteed in, but not having to worry about the duels. Getting to start on the front row alongside your teammate is definitely a good thing there. And well, that's going to do it for qualifying here. Here are your full qualifying results, which you will see on your screen right now. And Rasha, big takeaways from this session. Who are we looking at in terms of drivers that could be a threat for the Lumen 500 this year?
Oh man, it really feels like one of the Toyotas or maybe one of the Fords are gonna be the ones to really contend. We'll see what the Pacific cars have when it comes to race pace in the duels and of course in the race itself, but they definitely have that top end speed to show for it. Obviously, when the lowest ranked Pacific car, 13th Vinny Schultz, that's a very fast, very high floor for this team. Maybe we'll see something out of Isabella Fitzmaurice as well. Of course, she's obviously has that dual win in the past race to show for it. She's always been pretty quick. We'll see if she can make some impact as well. But as a whole, I'm very impressed by the speed the Toyotas have in this qualifying session. But qualifying at these tracks can only mean so much usually. So I think we'll just have to get to the race to see what all these teams have in race trim at Daytona.
Yeah, I'm looking at drivers that might struggle in the duel, like JC Kreider, maybe even you could throw Ashley Blake or Bridget Brosseau in there that could really use that qualifying time that they put up, fifth, sixth, ninth, to fall back on and help their chances of making the race. JC Kreider turning that sixth place lap especially is huge for her because I mean
That's
we've seen her
crucial, yeah.
struggles in the past, so maybe she can she'll have that a little bit extra sense of security going in, but yeah, and then looking towards the bottom
And
of the
looking,
timesheet,
hmm
I mean, we've got some surprises down there like Michael Harvin, JT Boyd, Jacob Lopez, Nathan Buchanan, and of course last year's winner Jake Sidney. But of course that doesn't mean they're going to be slow in the race. That might just mean that they weren't quite putting all their focus on qualifying in single car necessarily, but more maybe they put their focus in how the car handles in the draft.
yeah, and looking kind of towards the middle of the pack. Obviously, we mentioned the Hondas are all pretty much there in the midfield, and I'm not sure what to think of the Honda's performance this time around. Obviously, they do have some pace with them, but nothing too much on the top end when it comes to kind of that outright speed. But again, maybe they're focusing as well on the handling of the car in the pack, perhaps, and looking as well kind of towards the mid pack there. How about the 33 of Riley Pearson with that top 30 lap time? Obviously coming in fairly low expectations, putting in a lap time that's kind of right in the middle of the pack there. We'll see what happens. We'll see whether or not they can capitalize on that. Of course, you see other cars like say Latanya Gray in the 14 as well. That's another car that when in Group One we thought that was a fairly slow time, but as the track evolved, we had all these other cars go. It's kind of panned out right in the mid pack. So lots to think about, I think, for a lot of these teams that are kind of right down the middle of the pack. We'll see what they were doing in terms of car setup once we get to the duels.
Yeah, absolutely. Riley Pearson, if this was any other qualifying session, Riley Pearson would be in the race right now. But of course, you've still got the duels to go through, so it's still a chance for Riley Pearson to miss. But I mean, I'm feeling pretty confident on that 33 car and some of these other cars that uh kind of expected to struggle. Again, I mentioned the 78, maybe the 52 car, and even the 70 and the 10 to an extent from the full-time drivers had pretty solid lap times as well. So I'm going to be interested to see how things play out in the duels next week and see how much of this ends up kind of translating to that because sometimes it does matter a little bit and you see some of those cars that qualified well stay up front and sometimes it doesn't matter at all. So I guess it's really a case by case basis there, but it's been fun being up here. Thank you, Raja, for joining me, and thank you to Darian and Caleb for joining me earlier in the event. I always love doing this event. I love getting to talk about everybody in the field and giving everybody their own little piece of the spotlight. So, congratulations to Paul Sequia, and Pacific Racing on the pole and their front row sweep with Adrienne Pearson. And on behalf of everybody that has been up in the booth here today, also thanks to NASCAR Man for updating the live timing graphic as the event has gone along. Don't know if that will show up in the video yet. I'll try my best to recreate it, but it might not. You'll at least have the you'll at least see the results on your screen right here. But that'll be it for today. And on behalf of everybody that was in the booth today, I'm Brendan Wilmington, signing out.